If you know it, sing along. Talk to him, Spitter. Mm-hmm. We go yachts waving, faces. Millions, my nigga, keep that under like the basement. Get in here. Get in here. New Jet City. Come on now. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, gentlemen. I never hustle with no lane. Why would I begin? Who's that ain't my name, man? That's one of them. Listening to Mac B, wishing he was free. So we smoke on those ounce with gang green. Yeah. There's a difference between a plan and a scheme. Make sure your crew all true to the same things. Come on. Listen here. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Hotep History Live. I am your host, President Hotep Dubes. I am him. I am President Hotep Dubes, believe it. The 30th episode. Episode 30. We are in the building. Take this hoodie off. It's a little warm in here. You dig? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's go. Living just enough for the. Come on, Bert. Come on, Bert. Tell them about it. Yeah. Yeah. Let's get this. Let's get this hoodie off. Yeah. I'm not gonna wear the shades the whole time. I'm not gonna wear the shades the whole time, but I had to let y'all know that I got some. You feel me? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Get up in here. I've been promoting this all day. All day. We not leaving no excuses today. No excuses. If you did not see the tweet 10 minutes ago, if you didn't see the tweet an hour ago, if you didn't see the tweet 2, 3, and 4 hours ago, you didn't want to be here. You simply just did not want to be here. And that's fine. Because the people that are here are here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, again to another episode of Hotep History Live. I am your host, President Hotep Dubes. I hope you guys, first of all, I hope you miss me. Okay, I hope you miss me. I hope you were waiting with bated breath for another episode. But I also hope that you had a productive day. I know I have. I hope you learned something today. I know I have. And I hope that you guys are killing it. It's hump day. You feel me? We're in the middle of the week. Hopefully you guys have had an amazing week so far. Please let me know how your week has been going. Okay, so far. Let me know. Are we reaching benchmarks? Are we meeting goals? Are we hitting objectives? Are we making our missions correctly and on time? Because you know, outside of being a historian, your favorite historian, shout out to Sonny Johnson, I am also your accountability partner. Failure is not an option over here. Failure is not an option over here. I need all of you to be succeeding. I want all of us to be succeeding. Okay? So before we kick things off, make sure you do all of the things. Okay? Make sure you're tapping into the Patreon, patreon.com/Hotep History. Again, patreon.com/Hotep History. We on Kick, okay? But also make sure you're subscribing on YouTube, okay? YouTube doesn't get the exclusive anymore. I don't like the splits. I don't like how much money they're taking from me. Okay? So make sure you're subscribing to YouTube. You can catch the full episodes and stuff like that on there. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, because that's where the reels is going. That's where the videos are going. Also, make sure you're following me on Twitter. Okay? Make sure you're following me on Twitter, because I be having the fire tweets. And then lastly, make sure that you are going to the TikTok. Okay? Also, HotepHistory.com. Hold on. I got to shout it out. I got to shout it out every time. I say it every time. Let's go right to the site, HotepHistory.com. Okay? This is where we at, ladies and gentlemen. This is the crib. This is the official crib of Hotep History. Hold on. Wait for it to load. Wait for it to load. I want y'all to see the overlay. Boom. Boom. Okay? So make sure you're going to all of the things, subscribing to all of the things right now. Right now. Make sure you're following me here on Kick. I need more followers on here. I only got 69 followers. Pause. And I need more. I need 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more followers on here. We need to make Hotep History a household name. And not just in your household. I know you tap in. Okay, I know Bert, Coach Glasgow. You feel me? I know I'm a household name in the crib. Hopefully y'all got me, you know what I'm saying, casted on the TV, on the big screen. Hopefully I'm looking good on y'all Samsungs and Insignias and Rokus. You feel me? I'm gonna make sure I'm looking good out here. So make sure you're doing all of the things. HotepHistory.com. Hotep History on all platforms except Twitter. Okay? Make sure you're tapping in. Bert says, good week so far. Studying just had to show up. Good on you, Bert. Good on you. Thank you for tapping in. We got to start this show off right. I'm going to have a spitter song pretty much every episode. The man has the largest catalog of any rapper that I know of. You name them, he has a larger catalog than them, and it's all fire. So we're going to start every episode with a spitter song of my choice. You know, I may lend a couple of requests, but we got to keep it spitter. And it's not that I only listen to spitter, but I mainly listen to spitter. Okay? Very inspirational rapper. Has been the soundtrack to my journey and my success since I was about 15 years old. Really locked in around 08. You feel me? Bert, you about to make me play that right now. That's the lighter. That's when you gotta pour the light out. You feel me? You gotta pour the light out and do this to that song, man. 67 Turbo Jet. That's the money in the flow in case they kick in the dough. Come on now. But so today was a great day. Now, I told y'all how important rest is. You have to get your rest. You have to get your rest. You have to be able to rejuvenate yourself, man. Have to. Now, I say that to say I didn't get much rest. I slept well. I ain't gonna lie. I got some rest, but I went to bed pretty late. Got to work on that. Sorry about that. Got to work on that for sure. But even in that, I got a lot of work done. We got some content coming on the Patreon tomorrow. Okay, I'm announcing it now, so you'll be able to get ready for it. You know, nice little scripted content for you guys. No curses, so you can play it for the babies. Okay, it's safe for work, safe for the kids. See, on live, I get the cursing and shit. You feel me? Because we live. But on all my scripted content, I'm very cognizant that you guys, my brother Scruggs, he told me that he plays my videos for the babies. And so, you know, I want to make sure that it's family friendly for you guys and make sure that you are able to not only enjoy it, but educate your babies off of it. You dig what I'm saying? Hey, yo, now that I got y'all here, I need a mod. Who wants to step up and be a mod so we can get all of these bots and stuff out of the chat? I don't like it. I want them out of here. So anybody who wants to be a mod for the streams, please just DM me. And as long as you can be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m., that's where we live. Okay, on Kick, we'll make that happen. Thank you very much. So, little groggy this morning. Not gonna lie, I had to take a couple extra hours to rest up. Wanted to start my day a little bit earlier, but it's okay. Of course, the workout. I have to work on my diet. I had that conversation with HJ and Wendy, and he was telling me about what Inky was saying about salmon, and I eat salmon so much, so I gotta reconfigure my dietary, trajectory and all of that. Learned a lot, of course. I'm always in the archives, always studying. Learned about more Black American history and stuff like that. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. Tonight we're going to get into some good sources, primary and secondary sources. But I need full participation tonight. There's going to be more things that I'm going to be asking of you guys as we go on this journey together, this Hotep history journey together. And I want you guys to be more interactive. Not that you haven't been, but I appreciate when you guys are, engaged in the chat. So, tonight's question is, would you have been any of the occupations? Would you have been a cowboy? Would you have been a pioneer? Would you have been a frontiersman? How do you think you would have fared in the 19th century West, American West? Your Oregons, your Californias, your Nevadas, your Washingtons. Would you have been able to create a settlement with your brethren, your sisterin? Do you think that you could have roughed it with the likes of who we got? We got see, I can only think of his nickname right now, and it's super pause worthy. Deadwood Dick Pause. I even said that in the scripted content. Your Isom Darts. Your who else? There's a few of them out there. We're gonna cover all of them. We're gonna cover all of them. Memphis says I would have been whatever had the highest ROI. I'm putting work in pause. That's a fact. I ain't gonna lie. Shout out to the 49ers, the Black American 49ers, who was running the Cali in 1849 to get to that gold, get to them gold nuggets. We might have to tap into them too. I might have a whole separate live for them because they fit in this, so we'll definitely talk about it for sure. But yeah, I definitely would have been any one of the things. I think Memphis answer. I like Memphis answer. I definitely would have been part of the 49ers. I definitely would have wanted to settle my own towns and have my own settlements and stuff like that. I think that's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful part of our history that we need to talk about more. Episode 2 of Hotep History, Black American Towns. Learn all about it. Learn how we basically settled Oklahoma. Okay? Learn that vast history in Oklahoma. So it's a lot of history in Black America, man. Like it's incredible. It's incredible. You feel me? Who else? We got Move Forward. Shout out to Move Forward. Always can count on him. Always can count on Memphis. Always can count on Bert. We got to get Scruggs in here. I think Scruggs' schedule is a little bit different now. Scruggs ain't been around. I miss my guy. He's always tapped in. Glasgow's in the building. Didn't I see him in the chat? Thought I saw him in the chat. Well, shout out to Glasgow. Yeah, there we go. Glasgow in the building. Always appreciative. I told y'all, my day ones, man. Y'all are special to me. I'm not gonna hold y'all. Y'all believed in the platform before I had any of this stuff. So I appreciate it. But what else? What else did I do today? Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I'm a simple guy. I'm a simple guy. Memphis said, don't forget the potato king in Oklahoma. You can get money by any means. I want people to know that. about the ancestors, yo. They was about that mugger. They was about that bread. They were about that cheese, that cheddar. Okay? They were about that money. And we all know about Junius G. Groves, but I think Junius was out of Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was out of Kansas. Like, we're going to take these goddamn shades off. Okay? See my beautiful eyes out this motherfucker. But, yes, y'all, and you don't stop. I hope you guys are ready. Tonight, we are going to be talking about Black American Cowboys, pioneers, and frontiersmen of the Old West. A lot of people don't know this, but 1 out of 4 of all black cowboys were black. As a matter of fact, black cowboys, okay, that was the original name for black men in the Old West anyway, because white men were called cowhands. So we're going to start this off. Okay, we're going to start this off with a tidbit from episode 3 of Hotep History. And this is the reason why I love my scripted videos, because they're long enough to where I can take clips out of them and be able to, expound on them. So this episode was actually about Black American self-defense and how the ancestors were using guns and putting belt to ass to the enemies. But this chapter, I had to add in the Black American Cowboys, and I said that I was going to do a full episode about them. So here we are. Let's get into it. What just happened? Bum, bum, bum. New Jet City, man. It's a classic. All right, let's go back to the page.
Likely conjure images of men like John Wayne, Billy the Kid, or Jesse James. However, you may be surprised to learn that the origins of the term and occupation actually was specifically designated for enslaved and freed black men working on the ranches in the American West and Southwest. While white men were called cowhands, black men were pejoratively called cowboys as a way to undermine their manhood. Although the history of black cowboys dates back to about 15 years before the Civil War, the rise of the occupation happened once newly freed black men migrated west once the war was over. They gained skills in herding and driving cattle, breaking and taming horses, being trail cooks, bodyguards for money transporters, and performing in Wild West rodeos. The cowboys were largely taught their trades by Mexican vaqueros, whose methods originate from mulatto and mestizo ranchers from Spain. In fact, there are several terms in cowboy culture that have Spanish origins. Words like lasso, rodeo, and buckaroo derives from vaquero, vaca meaning cow in Spanish. Though severely left out of the history books, there were handfuls of famous black cowboys throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Men like Nat Love, also known as Deadwood Dick Paws, a former slave who became a skilled cowboy and rodeo performer. Even though most cowboys were illiterate, he learned how to read, write, and speak Spanish. He wrote an autobiography detailing his adventures on cattle drives in the frontier towns.
Oh, also, we're going to be tapping into that book tonight.
If you haven't, you should do yourself a favor and read it. He recalls the story when he first shot his gun. After fighting a large group of Indians that robbed them of their supplies and horses, a very scared Nat clutched his gun and shot it, scaring the Indians off. Nat said from that day forward, he never felt fear again. The famous Bass Reeves was the first black deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi. During his 32-year career, he apprehended over 3,000 criminals and became one of the most respected lawmen in the Indian Territory. Bill Pickett invented the rodeo technique of bulldogging or steel wrestling. This is when a mounted cowboy jumps off his horse, jumps onto the bull, grabs its horns, twists its neck, and tackles it to the ground.
And I want you to know this is actual footage of Bill. Okay, this is actually him demonstrating the technique. So I had to add this to the video. Beautiful, beautiful. I love the fact that they were able to record this.
He performed in Wild West shows worldwide and was posthumously inducted in the National Rodeo Hall of Fame. Pickett's most notable performance occurred in 1908 in Mexico City, where he wrestled a Mexican fighting bull for 7 minutes, impressing and enraging the audience. He also starred in silent films such as The Bulldogger in 1921 and The Crimson Skull in 1922, making him one of the first Black American cowboy movie stars. Bose Ickard participated in cattle drives on the famous Goodnight Loving Trail. He was extremely skilled in horse breaking and was able to herd cattle in the darkness of the night. He fought off Comanche Indians in at least 3 different engagements. He would usually be the one to hold the money along the trail because no one would expect a black man to have such wealth on him. His life inspired the character of Dietz in Larry McMurtry's novel Lonesome Dove. Isom Dart was born into slavery in Arkansas. He later reformed and worked as a ranch hand in Wyoming, gaining respect for his abilities. Bob Lemons was a former slave from Texas and was renowned for his unique method of capturing wild mustangs. He would infiltrate a herd alone and lead them back to captivity, a technique that made him highly sought after.
That's a fact. All of that is facts. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Black American Cowboy is extremely integral to the history of America, but specifically the American West. Okay, like I said in the video, they were men who worked on ranches in the West and the Southwest. They were making sure that they kept these ranches and stuff in tip-top shape. And yes, a lot of them were enslaved, but even after slavery was abolished, this was a skill and an occupation that they occupied for years and years and years. And when it comes down to even to modern day, you'll still see, if you go to Texas, if you go to Oklahoma, if you go to these different states, you'll still see a very vibrant community of Black American cowboys. So I love the fact that that lineage still exists to this very day. You dig what I'm saying? Big energy when it comes to rodeos and things like that. As a matter of fact, I remember I was talking about Black American towns, and one of the
Now, when you hear the word cowboy,
hold on. I was talking to them, and this is all of the content that we're gonna go over tonight. To give you a little preview of that. But okay, I scrolled down too far. But when it came down to Boley, Oklahoma, they still have. I know I saved it in here somewhere. There we go. In Boley, Oklahoma, they still have rodeos to this very day. As a matter of fact, they had one in Boley in May of this year. In May of this year, so they're still thriving today. These rodeos are all over the South, all over the West. And, I implore you guys to, participate and go to one day. As a matter of fact, I know I'm going to one next year. I have an entire plan. And I want to let you guys know I will be doing IRL content where I'm going to be going to different, historic Black American cities, towns, buildings, and stuff like that, and really giving you guys like a real, true point of view of what it actually means to see the living history. As a matter of fact, I will be going to the Library of Congress this month. Extremely excited to be going, and I will be filming, and you guys will be able to come along with me with all of the things I'm going to be learning. I talk about Daniel Murray, Alex Payne. He has a very long name, but he has his own collection in the Library of Congress. So his collections of course is just a compilation of a bunch of different Black American works about Black Americans, and they're all stored in the Library of Congress. So I cannot wait to be able to bring you guys along. However, right now there is so much living history as it pertains to Black cowboys. So I was searching through Twitter to try to find some relevant content to what I was going to be talking about tonight. So I want to go through a few things. Okay. We'll get to the modern day stuff in just a second. But this thread right here, like I said, 1 out of 4 Black American men, as far as cowboys, 1 out of 4 cowboys were Black American men. They were extremely integral to the entire industry of cattle ranching, farming, in like bullfighting and all of these different things. So shout out to this page, but we're gonna just take a little time to go through this thread, and then we'll get into the other sources that I've aggregated for today. So Bill Pickett, we just talked about him, world famous black cowboy, dusky demon. He invented the rodeo sport, bulldogging, steer wrestling, like I said. And in 1989, a good year, the year that I was born, okay? The year that I blessed the earth with my presence. The year that I blessed my parents with my presence, 1989. Shout out to us. Let's see. Here we go. This is the actual man on which the movie Django Unchained is loosely based. His name is Dangerfield Newby. And he was a member of the John Brown Raiders. He joined the gang to save his wife, Harriet, and children from slavery. So let's tap in to these pictures. And honestly, I'm fascinated about the history of these guys simply because of how under-documented they were. And you're going to see some of those same traits when it comes down to, particular parts of American history that had a lot of Black American participation in it, but a lot of these jealous documentarians, historians, and things like that, they didn't want to give too much credit. But the thing is, I tell y'all all of the time that history is seldom hidden. You just have to be able to do your research and get to the bottom of it. So shout out to Dangerfield Newby and his contribution. What else we got here? Jesse Stahl was a cowboy and a rodeo star. He's considered the greatest bronco rider. In a time when a bronco rider rode a horse until it stood still, Jesse became a legend and set the bar for bronco riding during the 1912 Salinas rodeo. Okay. Isom Dart, we talked about him in my video. Originally known as Ned Huddleston, gained a reputation as a late 19th century Wyoming Territory outlaw. He had many aliases, including Black Fox, Tan Mex, and Calico Cowboy. And that's another thing about this era, too. You're going to see a lot of bandits and stuff like that, like Cherokee Bill. Cherokee Bill was also a part of it. As a matter of fact, we'll go to episode 3 and tap into the outlaw side of it. In that clip, I highlighted the Cowboys and, of course, Bass Reeves and stuff like that. We talked about Nat Love. Nat Love is one of the only ones who were able to write their own autobiography about their lives. As you heard in the video, a lot of these guys were illiterate. And that's something that I find so fascinating, that these guys did not let the fact that they weren't so proficient at reading and writing stop them from being great men in whatever fields that they were in. When we were talking about these inventors, when we're talking about the town builders, these entrepreneurs like Samuel B. Fuller, all of these different people were able to amass great notoriety, great wealth and fame, and they were not the, quote unquote academics. Okay, they weren't the most, well-read, but they were intelligent men. And it speaks to how life is going to be your best teacher. Experience is going to be your best teacher. So even if you may not know how to write down your experiences, you know that you can teach it based upon what you've experienced in your life. So it says Nat earned the nickname Deadwood Dick Paws after winning a rodeo in South Dakota. As he tells it, he could hit anything within range of his Colt 45 revolvers and Winchester model rifle, but killed only out of self-defense. And like I said in the video, he tells a story in his book about these Indians were they were smoking their boots. They were smoking these dudes' boots. Like, they were terrorizing these guys. They were robbing stagecoaches. They were doing a whole bunch of just terroristic things to the Cowboys, and he was scared shitless. But once he clutched that gun that first time and let it off, what Rick Ross say? Pistol on me, nigga. Ain't no picking on me. Straight up. Once he got the pistol, it was like, okay, ain't no more bullying. Ain't none of that happening. Okay, you gonna catch this fire. belt to ass. And so, you know, shout out to Nat Love. There was a show on Netflix, I want to say, right? With Idris Elba, Jonathan Majors. Was it Harder They Fall? Yeah. Yep, here it is. That basically talked about Stagecoach Mary. I remember the backlash that they got when it came to that. But they also talked about Nat Love. They talk about Jim Beckworth, Bill Pickett. These are real, people that the movie was based on. So I don't remember watching this, but I may want to watch that again if I did watch it, because I don't remember. Okay. So yeah, this is another a movie that came on Netflix that talks about, this portion of history. And I do remember when the movie came out, you had a lot of people giving backlash to Zazie Beetz' character, because Stagecoach Mary was like literally the complete opposite of what Zazie Beetz looks like. So we can go to Stagecoach Mary. This is what Stagecoach Mary actually looked like. And so, of course, you're going to have people have a problem with this. Stagecoach Mary was a gangster. Like, I want y'all to know, because I talk about her in the video, and we're going to get to that video in just a second. But Stagecoach Mary was no hoe. She was not going at all. She's the epitome of not going. And I have an immense respect for her, because she used to, chew tobacco, shoot, fight men. Like, she was a G. She was a G. Okay, so after we get through the thread, because we have a lot of just content that I've accumulated for this show, we're going to get to all of it. So Stagecoach Mary was fire. Let's see what we got. Bass Reeves, we talked about him. Lawman and Deputy U.S. Marshal, was the first Black American commissioned to serve as deputy west of the Mississippi River. Brought justice to over 3,000 criminals, like I said. Shout out to him. George Fletcher, I didn't mention him, so this is good. George Fletcher was the first black cowboy to compete for a world championship in bronco riding at the 1911 Pendleton Roundup, Oregon's largest rodeo. Let's get a good glimpse at George here. Okay. Next slide. Smoking shit. Primary source. It's funny. There's a few people that whenever they see this page talking about Black American history, they always talk about, this person never talks about African history, which is, it's fine for me, but I find that shit funny, because we do have a vast history. Like, let the page rock. What I say. Robert Lemons, we talked about him in my video as well. Was one of the greatest Mustangers of all time. Like I said, he became a legend in his day by perfecting his unique method of catching wild mustangs. Said that is so yeah, that's that. And what else we have? We're gonna get into all of it, man. We're gonna get into all of it. We'll get into the modern day stuff in just a second, but let's listen to this real quick.
A yard boy. They will black me. They will black me. They were slaves. They had a house boy, a yard boy. Somebody worked the cows. He was called a cow.
So it seems like a lot of people are trying to erase the black history tied to symbols of the American South, like cowboys and country music. But I'm here today at the Houston Rodeo, and it's time to set the record straight.
And to do this, I got a real black cowboy to help me out.
Alright, my name is Larry Callis. I used to be a country western singer. When I lost my voice, I lost my band, and I lost my manager. But I'm a Christian first, and I'm a cowboy second. I know when God takes something this big, he adds something else. He's added my museum. I've been on the front page of the New York Times. A black cowboy confronts the whitewash history of the West. Larry Callis comes from a long line of Black American Cowboys. They originated from right here in Fort Benton County. Real word came from slavery. They had a house nigga, a yard nigga, and a nigga that worked the cows. Then they changed house boy, yard boy, and a cowboy. The white man in Texas was called a cowhand. He refused to be called a cowboy because the cowboy in Texas was a black man until Hollywood heard about it. When Hollywood heard about it, they started calling white men cowboys. They whitewashed the history. That's where the word cowboy came from.
You see that? You see that? Black men do something amazing. You give him lemons, and he gonna turn that motherfucker into lemonade every time. With a side of lemon wedges, with a lemon meringue pie. You feel me? And we'll take the seeds from the lemon and grow a lemon tree. That's what the Black American man does historically. That's what we do. And they seen all of the clout, all of the notoriety that the Black American Cowboys. Listen, there were no white cowboys. White cowboys did not exist. It was cowhands, and then they pejoratively called the ancestors cowboys. So here we go. What was his name? I'm bad with names. Larry. Okay. Larry says, yo, it was house nigga, yard nigga, right? And then they transformed it to soften the blow, I guess. And then it was house boy, yard boy, cowboy. So I'm thinking they had cow niggas. That's a cow nigga. And so they transformed that into cowboy. Black men, that was the name that they were given. And then black men took that name and was like, you know what? I am a cowboy. And wore it with honor and pride. And they saw that. They saw that they couldn't break the spirit of the ancestors. They saw that they couldn't keep Black American ancestral men down. Turns the entire term on its ear. Turns it into something of prestige, of honor, of valor. Okay? Turned it into something that you could actually be proud of. Seeing all the clout that the ancestors had and was like, you know what? John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, all of these different dudes. And they don't even come from that. These are actors. These are posh men for all intents and purposes. These men ain't never really been on the ranches. They ain't never been outside. They never herded cattle. They never wrestled bulls. They never really was in the mud. They really didn't get it out of the dirt. They were able to cosplay as the ancestors. Little cigar at the side of his mouth, bullet belt, you feel me, across the chest, revolver on each hip. That was what the ancestors was rocking with. That's how the ancestors was moving. And the white man seen, okay? The white man seen how they was giving it up and was like, yo, I know I told y'all for years, don't ever call me a cowboy and call me a cowhand. I know for years I looked down on the work that I did because I was working alongside black men and all of that, but I see all of the clout that these men are getting. I see the clout that Bill Pickett is getting, Isom Dart, Nat Love. I'm seeing all of the clout that these black men are getting, and now I want in on that. And here come Hollywood. Here come Hollywood whitewashing our history and then trying to take over. Okay, trying to be like, oh, yo, this is what we was always on. Co-opting the movement. That's a part of Black American history right there. Like, listen, if you are doing something great as a Black American man or woman, understand that there are going to be other non-Black American people that are going to want to co-opt it, period. They see how you moving. They see how you succeeding. They see how you, moving and shaking and hustling out here. And then after you've done all of the groundwork, after you laid the foundation, after you've made a name for what you do, now here come all of the people saying that they was down all along. Y'all niggas was hating in the beginning. You used it as a pejorative to separate yourself from the ancestors. But now look. Now look. So this is what I'm talking about, yo. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to the ancestors. They do all of this innovative, groundbreaking, foundational, shaking things that changes the trajectory of American history as a whole. As a whole, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever you are. Now, all of a sudden, this is something to be proud of when it was a slur. It was a pejorative. It was something to look down upon way back when. So check this out. I have to use the bathroom, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back. So I'm gonna let the brother Currency the Hospital serenade you for a couple minutes, and I'll be right back. Let's see what we got. I want to choose the right song while I'm going. Yeah, there we go. This is good. Right back.
Like I said, young with the headline pose. It's just a game I play when I get bored.
Alright, we back. Alright, Spitter, that's enough. That's enough. Thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate it. You had to hold me down for a second. So, we're gonna go through a couple more things historically. Then we're gonna run over to the Patreon to watch a couple excerpts from the video. I wanted to share these pictures here. These were people that were featured in, of course, The Harder They Fall. Just more historical pictures that this brother had shared. You know. Nat Love, man. Legends. Who's this? Oh, Cherokee Bill. We talked about it. We're going to get to him in my video. You feel me? Bill Pickett, of course. All right, so let's see. I got to get it ready. Hold on. Just give me a second, y'all. Let me know. We 43 minutes in. How y'all enjoying it? Got any questions, comments, or concerns? Let me know in the chat, man. Let me know in the chat. Yo, I'm telling y'all, I've been enjoying myself so thoroughly doing this stuff. I can't tell y'all how, like, I don't know. It's just like being able to do these streams and be able to talk about the things that I'm super passionate about. It just does something, man. You know, I'm gonna be teaching at different, like, you know, different institutions and stuff like that, and I really hope the students really get to experience, you know, the passion for real up close, because I truly am just, I'm enamored with this stuff, yo. I truly believe that when it comes down to our history, if you're not gonna tell it, nobody else is. If you're not going to be the person to convey these stories in the proper way, you're never going to get it the right way. So let's get into it. Boom, paste, Patreon. Let's get into it. Let it load up. Let's get some more people up in here. Share that we are here. I've been tweeting about it all day, but make sure that you are sharing. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that you are sharing. Make sure that you are sharing and letting people know that we in here. Retweet, Retweet the stream. Retweet the stream. Shout out to Rashad. Get me with that one. Repost the space. Repost the space. Repost the stream. We in here. So, like I told y'all, this is from Hotep History, Episode 3, Black American Self-Defense. As you can see, Nat Love and Stagecoach Mary, okay, is on the cover. We cover them. And listen, we go all the way back to the Revolutionary War. We got the Deacons for Justice, Deacons for Defense and Justice, okay? We got the Civil War vets right here. Understand this history goes
deep. A man's
deep.
rights rests in 3 boxes: the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. This was said by the great Frederick Douglass in 1867.
Yeah, I had to let that
the 19th and 20th centuries.
So let's go right to the
He
bandits.
would usually be the one to hold, well known for his abilities with horses. Addison Jones was known for his exceptional horse breaking skills.
Okay, did I go?
Highly sought after.
Yeah, we go. There we go.
As we know,
There we go. This is where we at with it, y'all. Let's get to it.
it wasn't all good guys in the Old West. Cherokee Bill, born Crawford Goldsby, was an outlaw in the Indian Territory. Known for his marksmanship, he was considered armed and dangerous despite only being a teenager. He created the Bill Cook Gang in 1894. That same year, Bill and his partner Jim French robbed a store and killed a passerby named Ernest Melton.
So, Cherokee Bill was a kid. He was a teenager. What many would consider a YN. He was a YN of the Old West. You dig me? And another one, he was a bad motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. He was robbing folks. He was shooting motherfuckers. Like he was getting to it on the crime tip. He was getting to it. And he was extremely influential. Look, he's the leader of this crew. Now you got some guys that's younger than Bill here. Okay? This young fella and this young fella. But look at all the older men following his lead. Cherokee Bill was no hoe at all. He was smoking boots. He was smoking boots. And I'm telling you, when it came down to the Old West, I ain't gonna lie, I might have dabbled in a little bit of banditry. I might have indulged in a little bit of outlaw. Cause like, yo, listen, I always have these conversations, and it's like, yo, there's no cameras. It's law. I know that comparison to today is lawless because of how things were, but yeah, certain places, certain towns, you couldn't have your gun on you. You couldn't have your gun on you if you went to particular saloons and bars and all of that. But me being a 21st century contemporary Black American man, I would have been I would have been the illest outlaw. If I were able to go back in time, knowing all of the things that I know now, even if I didn't, but especially if I did, oh my God, I would have been the biggest outlaw. You think listen, we robbing all of the trains. We robbing the train tracks. We are robbing. Yo, being an outlaw back then, Move Forward says that he was Marlo from The Wire. Perfect. Perfect analogy. He was Marlo. He was Marlo. And I'm telling y'all, yo, if y'all seen The Wire and y'all seen the way Marlo gave it up, it makes perfect sense. Cherokee Bill was out here cooking shit. And it's like, I feel like the ancestors ran a lot taller back then, because he's taller than a lot of these men. He a teenager in this photo, maybe early 20s, late teens, early 20s. And he's dwarfing mad of these older guys. For the most part, you got number 5 over here. That was pretty tall. Number 3. But back to what I was saying, I would have been robbing everything. Like, yo, depending on who, if Bass Reeves would have got me, cool. But if Cherokee Bill was like, yo, I got a band of a bunch of outlaws, we out here smoking shit, we get into it, we robbing gold miners, we robbing trains, we going into these different towns and having whiskey, you know, we keep our revolvers on our hip, all that, 100% would have been down with the Cherokee Bill gang. 100%. And then I might have had my own gang. How about that? The Doe Doobs gang. Would y'all would have rolled with me? Would y'all have rolled with me in the Doe Dubes gang? See, the thing is, you got to name the gang after yourself for some reason. That's something that I've seen. But I would need a bunch of, I need a bunch of bandits riding with me, son. We about to take over the whole entire West. Bass Reeves arrested 3,000 people, or over 3,000 people in his career. I would have gave him a tough out. Not gonna hold you. I would have gave him a hard time. You can't fuck with me. You can't fuck me. Listen, son, we would have been out in them frontiers shooting shit out. I'm trying to tell you, sharpshooter. Would have been a sharpshooter. And me and the Doe Dubes gang, what? We would have been smoking shit. Sorry. We're going to get rid of all of the other gangs too. So Jesse James and Buffalo Bill and Blackbeard or whoever. Blackbeard, that's the fucking pirate. But all of them dudes, I'm gunning for them first. I'm gunning for them first off the rip because I know how they felt about niggas. And so off the strength of that, I'm going for them first. But as far as the Doe Dubes gang, oh yeah. We terrorizing shit from everything from Texas to Oklahoma. We terrorizing shit from Texas, Oklahoma. You feel me? What else is over there? We got Oklahoma, we got Arkansas, Nebraska. I would have been all over the map. Me and the gang. Let's get back into it.
He was captured by Bass Reeves and executed at the age of 20.
See? So he died at 20. So in that photo, he was a teenager. And yes, this is a real hanging. This is a real hanging from the Old West. This is the reason why you need to be subscribing to the Patreon, because YouTube ain't never letting this imagery on there. You feel me? You got to go to the Patreon, patreon.com/Hotep History. But yo, 20 years old, he caught all of that wreck from what? 12, 13 to 19. Had a 6-year run, which is a pretty long time. You know what I'm saying? To be a criminal in this era. See, me, I would have been pushing for the decade. I would have been pushing to be the longest outlaw, period. I ain't even gonna hold you. I'm all about being number one. I'm a competitive person. So if I see how Cherokee Bill giving it up, I gotta make sure that I go twice as hard. That I'm winning is twice as much. That's just period. You feel me?
Samuel Jeans, known as Bronco Sam, was a skilled bronco rider and horse trainer. He worked on several notable ranches in Texas and became well known for his abilities with horses. Addison Jones was known for his exceptional horse breaking skills and was a range boss for a crew of Black American Cowboys working for George Littlefield. He became legendary throughout West Texas and eastern New Mexico for his abilities. Hulk Hoyer was a black cowboy that actually gained his freedom fighting for the Confederacy during the Civil War at the age of 14. He became a highly skilled outdoorsman at a young age, and legend has it that Collier killed his first bear at the age of 10.
You see what I'm saying? He killed his first bear at the age of 10. See, y'all be worrying about let kids be kids. Let kids be kids. Nigga, it's 10-year-olds killing bears, dog. I don't want to hear it. See, my son, when I have my son, I'm telling you, when I have my son, he gonna be the baddest motherfucker on earth. You hear me? He gonna be the baddest motherfucker on earth, because look at the history that he comes from. This is what his ancestors was doing. They was smoking Yogi, bro. Smoking Yogi pack at 10 years old. Smoking on Smokey the Bear. We are literally having Smokey pack. We going bear hunting, son. Let's go. 10 years old. His mother gonna freak the hell out. But we going bear hunting. Where y'all going? Oh, I'm just gonna take him out. We gonna do a little bit of, father-son bonding and all of that other stuff. Oh yeah, what do you have planned? Oh nah, we was gonna go in the middle of the wilderness and shoot bears. What? Yeah, we're gonna be shooting fucking grizzlies and shit like that. We're gonna be like hunting big ass, 7, 8, 900 pound bears and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? As a rite of passage. Like, well, you from New York. So what? So what? So what that I'm from New York? So what? We going bear hunting. Me and my son, don't let him have a brother. Me and my sons are going fucking bear hunting. Period. We are going to be hunting grizzlies. That's what we doing this afternoon. We could have went to some punk ass daddy daycare shit. We could have did the dad walk, fucking holding hands, eating ice cream and shit. Like, nah, we are going to go into the middle of a random forest and smoke a couple bears, Revenant style. Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. And then we're going to have bear burgers when we get back. We're going to have bear burgers. That boy is going to eat the food that he killed. He's going to be a better man for it. You hear me? He's going to be a better man for it, period, point blank. Imagine walking into 5th grade, okay? Imagine walking into 5th grade after a summer of hunting with your pops, killing deer, bear, elk, and shit like that, and you walking into 5th grade. Bully who? Bully where? Who are you about to bully? I literally kill animals 100 times your size with precision, motherfucker. There is no bullying me. What I say earlier, pistol on me ain't no picking on me. Period. My son is going to be a marksman. Calling it. Stamped it. He's going to be a marksman. Let's go.
After the war, he became a renowned hunter and guide in Mississippi. He was highly sought after for his expertise. At the height of his career, Collier had killed over 3,000 bears.
3,000 bears. Gotta beat that record. My son gotta beat that record. Me and my son gotta rack up more bodies than the ancestors. I think we got a big enough bear population that we can get it off. I think we can do it. I think we have a big enough bear population to be able to get it off. If not, then we'll keep it within reason. But yeah, see, my son don't even know what he got coming. He not even here yet. He ain't even materialized or nothing. But when he get here, understand from day one, I'm prepping him to be able to kill a bear. The ancestors did it. The ancestors was able to kill a bear at 10. Why he can't do it in 2020, whatever? There's no excuse, son. Come on. Get your boots, get your shirt, get your pants on, get your rifle. We going outside.
In 1902, he led President Theodore Roosevelt on a bear hunt near Onward, Mississippi. Believe it or not, this hunt eventually led to the creation of the teddy bear toy. Daniel Webster Wallace.
Before we so let me tell y'all this story, the Teddy Roosevelt story. Okay, so I'm bad. You already know how my memory is. The ancestor that we were just talking about, that was killing bears since he was 10 years old and racked up 3,000 bear bodies by the time he was an adult man. He took Teddy Roosevelt out on a guided tour to go hunting. Teddy Roosevelt, he's famous for being like this, rough and rugged outdoorsman and shit like that. And so that was like a big part of his reputation. It was this black man that was taking him on this guided hunt or whatever. Teddy Roosevelt couldn't shoot for shit during this hunt. I don't know if he was a good shot at any other time in his career or whatever as a hunter, but when he was on this guided hunt, he could not kill a bear. So, the ancestor that we were just talking about, he trapped the bear, cornered him, and then tied the bear to a tree to make it easy for Teddy Roosevelt to shoot and kill a bear and say that he, hey, I killed the bear. And Teddy Roosevelt was like, nah, I can't do that. It's unfair. It's unsportsmanlike and all of that. And so that story of his travels and all this other stuff makes it back to, Washington. He tells the story and all of that. And because of that, because of that story, basically people, were endeared by the story and stuff like that. So that went on to be the inspiration for the invention of the teddy bear. A black man, just so we are understanding, a black man is behind the story and the history of the teddy bear, of the teddy bear. A black man is behind the story of the American teddy bear. The teddy bear is so integral to the American zeitgeist. It's like it becomes a symbol of childhood toys, comfort, love when it comes like the Valentine's days and romance and stuff like that. Like the teddy bear is so iconic in American history, and it's because a black man guided the president of the United States on a bear hunt, and the president couldn't properly kill one, and so they created the teddy bear. It's real American history that I'll be telling y'all here. Only here, folks. Only here at Hotep History are you going to learn about the origins of the American teddy bear. Point blank, period. Let's move on.
Started as a cowboy in Texas and eventually became a successful rancher owning over 8,000 acres. He was known for his business acumen and generosity, often helping other black cowboys to get their start. At the height of the culture, 1 out of every 4 American cowboys were black. Their history is so rich and vast that I think I'm going to dedicate an entire detailed episode just for this era of the Wild Wild West. Let me know in the comments if that's something you like to see.
Look, and now look at us here. Look at us here. Now, I want to also skip ahead to Stagecoach Mary's story. So let me see where she's at. Yeah, this was Robert Williams' story. He had a whole thing. His story was crazy. Here we go. Matter of fact, we're gonna do the whole chapter here because I think it bears it lines up.
Just like the Negro cowboys of the West and Southwest, black women have also been largely cast to the shadows in the storytellings of armed black Americans throughout history. However, the historical record shows that black women have had an intimate relationship with firearms for just as long as the men. When you think about it in a practical sense, the fact should be obvious. Black women were raised around guns and
That's Stagecoach Mary.
understood their importance and their usefulness in defense of their lives. We know this due to the history of brave women like Maria Stewart, an abolitionist in the 1830s who argued that it was God's will for black people to struggle against oppression using force if necessary. Ida B. Wells in the late 19th century famously stated that, quote, "A Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black home for protection against lynching." After being asked how she withstood all of the racism she endured over the years, civil rights activist Fannie Lou Hamer responded, quote, "I keep a shotgun in every corner of my bedroom, and the first cracker even look like he wants to throw some dynamite on my porch won't write his mama again."
Greatest quote of all time. Greatest fucking quote of all time. I'll say it again. I keep a shotgun in every corner of my bedroom, and the first cracker even look like he want to throw some dynamite on my porch won't write his mama again. She wasn't going. Listen, if you haven't noticed, I have an affinity for black Americans who just don't go. I have an affinity for black Americans who just ain't going. And I love that I use this picture. It's the perfect marriage. The quote with this picture. She's saying that shit in this photo. Like, listen, there's not a single corner of my house that I can't get to a gun. Okay? All of the racism and all of that shit, like, I understand I'm against it. You already know I'm anti-racist, all of that shit. But the very second, fuck that. If you even look like you about to do some nefarious shit, I'm going to send you to where? Send you to hell. And that's what Fannie was on. A shotgun in every corner of the bedroom. There's 4 in there, at least. And I know she had one in the kitchen. I know she had one in the living room. I know she had one right by the front door. I know they did. I know she did. Fannie wasn't going. You got to respect the black American ancestors and contemporary who are just not going to go. Simply. That's it. No long explanation. This is a 1 sentence, you know what I'm saying? 1 sentence example of like, yo, I'm not going. You even look like you about to do some fuck shit. You're going to die. You're going to die right there where you looked. I didn't like the way he looked. He looked like he was about to do some stupid shit. He looked like it looked like he was about to throw some dynamite. So I had to send him to hell. This is what it is. That's what the ancestors was on.
Ann Colton Reeves was taught by her father about guns when she was a child. Her parents kept a .22 rifle, a Winchester rifle, a shotgun, and 2 handguns. Her father thought it was extremely important for his daughters to know how to use guns so they could protect themselves from potential rapists. White hate groups very often use sexual violence against black girls and women in their terroristic pursuits.
That's a fact. So while I talked about my son, my daughters get the same treatment. You got to learn how to use the firearm. You got to learn how to protect yourself out here. Because as you can see, this was a study, okay? where racist white men were out here terrorizing young black women, young black girls, and being completely disgusting. Okay? Completely disgusting against our women and our young ladies. And we owe it to our daughters to teach them how to protect themselves. That's a fact. That's a fact. So even the little girls ain't going. I want an entire population of black Americans who are just not going. I know there are some anti-gun black Americans who are a little bit uncomfortable with guns due to their history and all that other stuff. I completely understand that. But overall, if you want to protect yourself, please make sure you're arming yourselves legally, of course. But if you're one of those black Americans who are like anti-gun, not really jacking guns, I don't knock you. That's your right. Maj Toure, he educated me on that. Like, yo, when it comes down to, people in their rights, they have the right to not have a gun. So I'm never going to begrudge you if you're anti-gun. Just don't begrudge me because I'm pro-gun. I'm pro-gun as a motherfucker. You feel me? I'm pro-gun as a motherfucker. I can't get more pro-gun. I look at guns like tattoos, to be totally honest. Like, once you get one, you just want another one and another one and another one. And before you know it, you got a body full of tats and a house full of guns. That's just how it goes, especially when you're talking about the ancestors. Not maybe so the tattoos, but definitely the guns. So we're going to get to Stagecoach Mary because, and the only reason I'm letting this entire chapter play through is because it's very important. A lot of people don't even talk about black American women, especially ancestral black American women, and their relationship with guns. So let's keep it going.
Black girls were made aware of this fact, often by their parents, and trained in ways to defend themselves. Annie recalled how her father once told her, quote, "It's better to have ammunition than to have food."
Listen, okay? Wasn't playing around with the babies. Letting them know it's real outside. It's real outside. There's people that want to do you harm. Okay? There's people that want to do you harm. And anime manga fan says, nah, anti-gun needs to be judged with extreme prejudice. Listen, you got to let people have it, man. You get what I'm saying? You got to let people have it. But it's better to have ammunition than to have food. That's how serious it was, okay? That's how real it was outside. It wasn't none of that bullshit going on. Listen, everybody needs to know how to clear a firearm, aim a firearm, draw a firearm, and shoot that shit with precision. Everyone. No exceptions. That's how the ancestors looked at it. Point blank, period. You gots to be packing. You gots to. It's a must. Because who knows what's going on outside today, but I know it ain't safe. Okay? Somebody may want to do you bad, and you need to be giving them the most unpleasant surprise of their life. Probably the last one they'll ever have, if you do it right. Let's get back into it.
Kathy Williams was born a slave in the ironically named Independence, Missouri in 1844. She worked as a house slave in Jefferson City. At age 17, she was freed by Union forces and worked as an army cook and washerwoman. Serving under General Philip Sheridan, Kathy witnessed campaigns like the Red River Campaign and the Battle of Pea Ridge. Inspired by these events, Kathy disguised herself as a man and enlisted in the army under the alias William Cathay. She was assigned to the 38th U.S. Infantry Regiment, which later became part of the Buffalo Soldiers. The only people who knew her true identity were her friend and cousin, who were also soldiers.
So, I know that Mulan is based upon another story that took place in Asia somewhere, but we got our own. Okay, we got our own story of a young woman signing up to fight in a war because of how passionate she was, and you know how attached she was to the freedom of her people. So whether or not like Abraham Lincoln was actually caring about freeing the slaves, we know that he wasn't. But when it came down to these black soldiers, okay, they were fighting to free their brethren. And like I said, regardless of what the feds were saying, whatever the government was saying, every time that they went to go sack a plantation, they took those black enslaved men and enlisted them immediately to become Union troops to be able to gain their freedom. So you have a lot of these slaves being freed by Union soldiers during the Civil War and being like, here's a rifle, okay? Here's a revolver. Here's a bayonet. Like, we're going to make sure that you're armed and dangerous. You fresh off the plantation. Somebody came and rescued you. And now you're able to pay that rescue forward by going to the next plantation and the next plantation and the next plantation to be able to free your brothers and sisters. And so that is how a lot of Black American ancestors became Union troops, is because they were going to plantation and freeing their people. So while we have our understanding of how Abraham looked at it, the ancestors looked at it completely different. They were freeing the slaves. They were actively freeing the slaves.
She served for nearly 2 years before her true identity was discovered during surgery and was discharged. She is the first Black woman in American history to fight in a war. You may not believe this, but Harriet Tubman played a major role in the Civil War as well. She led 150 Black Union troops of the U.S. 2nd South Carolina Volunteers in what was called the Combahee River Raid in 1863. Harriet was petitioned by Colonel James Montgomery to lead the operation. She had on-the-ground information from slaves in the area that helped them navigate and avoid having their gunboats attacked along the river. As they moved upriver, Union troops would stop at certain locations to perform raids that destroyed camps and supplies, while Harriet boarded the slaves onto the gunboats.
See? So even in this depiction right here, you got the Union troops on the boat. You see I was about to point to it like, yeah. But you got the plantation here, slaves all back here, all of that, right? Crops. It's looking like wheat or whatever. And so they booming shit from the boat. Okay, sacking these plantations and freeing these people. And they just kept going up the river, kept going through. And as he, like the video said, I was about to say, like he said, and it's like it's not me. Harriet Tubman understood the lay of the land based upon her ability to talk to, with all these different slaves and stuff like that. So when it comes down to Harriet Tubman getting busy, understand that Harriet Tubman was actively doing this. So while she on record as far as her and her activity in the Underground Railroad, I think she only freed about 30, 50 or 70 slaves. But when it comes down to these raids, as you can see, she was freeing hundreds.
In total, they freed 750 slaves and caused millions of dollars of damage to Confederate plantations, warehouses, and rice fields. Former slaves took immense pride in destroying the institutions that once profited off of their bondage and exploitation. Harriet also says she regretted wearing her green dress because it was dirtied from the excitement of the newly freed men. I bet you didn't know Harriet had a keen fashion sense, did you?
So I had to include that. Because I'm just picturing it in my mind. Like, she got all of these niggas getting on a boat and shit like that, and they hype as hell because they just burnt down the plantation, killed a couple crackers on their way out. They feeling great. They got guns in their hand. They got uniforms on or going to get uniforms. And she put on her green dress, trying to look spiffy for the day. And there's a bunch of niggas like, yeah, like grabbing her like, yeah, Harriet, that's what the fuck I'm talking about. We out this bitch. We done burnt down the motherfucking plantation. Fuck them motherfuckers. We lit now. We Union troops now. It's lit. We live out this motherfucker. And Harriet's like, God damn. Like, she going through all of this shit. Everybody fucking bouncing around her and shit like that. And she like, God damn, these niggas done dirtied up my green dress. I knew I should have worn my other calico. You feel me? I can picture this shit, yo. And this is why I be saying, when these motherfuckers be making these movies and shit, all you gotta do is really deal with the real histories. These stories is way better than fiction. You ain't got to add no sauce. You ain't got to take creative liberties and shit for real. All you got to do is read the books. You feel me? Move Forward says them boys couldn't wait to toss some bullets. That's a fact. They could not wait. They was burning shit down, son. They ain't take no convincing. No convincing. If you was a nigga that needed to be convinced that you were on the winning side of history, bro, then you gotta die, bro. I'm sorry. You gotta go. Nobody about to stand here while the plantation that you were serving at is literally burning the fuck down. The man that owns you is dying or dead. We ain't doing too much convincing, bro. You see, we on the winning side of history. We are smoking shit, and we are continuing to smoke some shit. So if you're not down with this, bro, then you just gonna have to lay down and die. But we going on to the next plantation and smoking shit. That's what we doing over here. And shout out to Harry. Shout out to Harriet. Period. You feel me? Harry and Miss PTSO Tubman. You heard? You feel me? Wasn't going. Smoking shit.
Listen, one of my absolute favorite historical...
Here we go. We about to get into it. Now you seen I had to stop myself in the video. I was like, listen. Stagecoach Mary, ladies and gentlemen. Stagecoach Mary. Let's get into it.
Figures is none other than Stagecoach Mary Fields. Born in 1832, standing at 6 feet tall, weighing in at 200 pounds, Mary was not to be played with. She loved to drink whiskey, smoke cigars, curse like a sailor, gamble, and had a quick temper. She was skilled in carpentry, gardening, cooking, and healing with herbs and roots. She was formerly named Black Mary due to her dark skin complexion and gained her reputation when racist white men refused to take orders from a nigger woman on job sites. Each time a white man tried to assault her, Mary would up her gun and promptly shoot them.
Do you see what I be talking about? Every single time a cracker thought about violating Mary, Black Mary at the time, she wasn't even Stagecoach Mary yet. Black Mary. She was dark skinned. That's the reason why the whole Zazie Beetz thing was such a scandal, because like she was known, she was a big black woman, dog. Like, and I'm not even talking about just like weight. I'm talking about she's a 6 foot black woman with a rifle and a cigar in her mouth and a whiskey and a shot glass. Just the definition of not going. And every single time that a white man thought that he could disrespect Mary, Mary up the fire. She upped the pole on him every single time and shot them and lived to tell the tale. So when y'all get to be, having these notions about Black American subserviency, Black American docility, Black American fragility, nah, dog. The ancestors was never like that. The ancestors was never pussy. Understand that the ancestors was never pussy, not one time and not one era at all. Like Memphis just said in the chat, Hotep Memphis just said the ancestors were not going. They were not going, fam. I cannot stress this to you people enough. The ancestors was never played pussy ever. Never. Not once. Yeah, you're going to have some black victims. You're going to have some black L's. You're going to have some black deaths for sure. But they died on their fucking feet, not on their knees. Stagecoach Mary shot at any motherfucker who had a problem with her, son. There was no sense of, there was no going. There was no going. You play pussy, you get fucked over here. That's how it was with the ancestors, especially a Black Mary. You want to fuck around with these people. The ancestors ate crackers for breakfast. That's a fact. The chat going crazy tonight. The chat going crazy tonight. I knew y'all was going to like this.
Mary wasn't just a shooter either. She had absolutely no problem beating the bricks off you if you wanted to fight. The newspaper, the Great Falls, Montana Examiner, wrote that Mary, quote, broke more noses than anyone in Montana.
So we can put the guns down. We can put the fucking guns down. I don't got to kill you. I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Let's just do that. Let's rumble me. Shout out to my Philly niggas. Rumble me, pussy. Rumble me. Put your motherfucking dukes up. Let's really get it on. I'm taller than the average man right now. I will beat the shit out of you, son. I will beat shit down your leg. You hear me? You're going to be seeing stars after you fucking with me. I'm going to beat your ass. She broke more noses than anyone in the state of Montana. The nose breaker. You understand? I want y'all to really understand just how deep this shit go. It was not any type of going at all. Had hands. Word to Cliff. Cliff in the chat. What's good, bro? had hands, was breaking faces with these. So yeah, I could shoot you right now. Shoot you dead before you even reach for your pistol. Because I'm good with mine. I'm surgical with this shit, Jake. You feel me? However, I'm just going to beat you up. How about that? How about I just beat you the fuck up? Huh? How you feel now? How you feel when you on the ground looking up and it's a black woman who just finished beating the shit out of you, son? You on the ground like this. You fucked up. You fucked up. This black woman beat your ass. She like 50-0. She on Mayweather time. She on Mayweather time. She was wrecking shit. I'm trying to tell you. She was smoking boots left and right. So even if we can squabble or we can shoot it out. Whatever you want to do. I'm Black Mary, nigga. Yo, listen, this is what happens. Y'all know them girls you in the hood that you used to grow up with, right? Didn't really keep their hair done and shit like that. Had short nails. Was ready to rumble at any fucking time. That's her, but on steroids. I grew up with girls in the hood like that. They didn't give a fuck about being the prettiest girl on the block. You called her to beat ass. She went and beat all the asses in school. You know that girl in school that was beating ass. You know the girl in school that was beating ass, fam. Every week she was getting suspended for beating ass in the schoolyard, in the hallway, in the lunchroom, in the classroom. There might have been a teacher or two that she done flipped on. It might have been a couple administrators she done beat on. You feel me? I grew up with them type of chicks. So Black Mary, this resonates with me. I grew up with women like Black Mary.
Due to her non-subservient behavior, Mary was fired from the missionary she worked for and became a driver for Wells Fargo, transporting money. She apparently got the job after she told the hostile and apprehensive bank manager this, quote, "I'm Mary Fields, Black Mary. I can outshoot, outride any man trying for this job. You don't want to try me."
Yo. Yo, imagine. Yo, listen. First of all, those white Christian women couldn't handle Mary. Oh, Mary, we see that you're always getting into bar fights and you drink a lot, you curse a lot, you smoke cigars, and it's usually men that you're beating up and shooting. And we are a Christian faith here. We're a Christian faction. We just want to be able to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it's hard to do missionary work with you always beating on the men, shooting the men. We can't spread the gospel of Jesus Christ when you're abusing all of the men. And Mary's like, man, fuck y'all. You firing me? After all the shit that I've done for y'all gonna fire me? Fuck this. And she got out of there. And then she applied for a job at Wells Fargo to be able to transport money, on the carriages. In her interview, they sat down, was like, had the papers and shit, like, okay, Mary, what are your qualifications? And what's your experience? Why should we hire you? And Mary was like, I'm Mary motherfucking Fields. Black Mary. I can outshoot, outride any man. So all of the motherfuckers outside in the hallway, all the motherfuckers sitting outside waiting for their interview, I can outshoot him and outride him. All of them. That is why you should hire me. And then, if you don't want to try me, you don't want to, imagine telling your interviewing manager, hire me because I will smoke the boots of any other person that's going for this job, and ends it with, you don't want to fuck with me. Give me the job. You don't want to fuck with me. And you know what happened, chat?
Her words were clearly backed by her action. She was so good at her job as a driver, she
got the fucking job. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
Earned the nickname Stagecoach Mary, despite her not actually driving a stagecoach. She successfully warded off a pack of hungry wolves one winter night and still made the delivery on time. No matter where she went, Mary always had her guns with her. She had a .38 Smith & Wesson double-action revolver, a rifle, and a shotgun at all times. This was primarily to protect herself and her precious cargo from bandits and other criminals. In 1895, at around 60 years old, she became a star route mail carrier for the U.S. Postal Service. Mary was the first Black American woman and second woman overall to work for the U.S. Postal Service. Despite her rough reputation, the people who lived around Mary adored her and appreciated her service to the community. In 1912, when Mary's house was destroyed in a fire, her neighbors pitched in and rebuilt her an entirely new one.
Dog. The dichotomous energy of Stagecoach Mary, that she was notorious when it came down to self-defense and being able to beat ass. But to her community, she was probably the sweetest person that you could have ever met, because women like that are going to just give you the energy that you give them. So if you come on bullshit, I'm going to give you the most bullshit. But if you come with respect and love, I got you. There's nothing but respect and love. There's no way that Black Stagecoach Mary was some type of a bitch, okay, was some type of a rude person, and then somebody sees that her house is burnt down, and then they chip in to build her an entirely new house. You have to be a pillar of your community. You have to be somebody that people love and respect. You have to, because at the end of the day, if she was like terrorizing people, if she was fucking over people, if she was shitting on people, then they would have seen that house burned down and been like, thank God. That means she's going to move out of this motherfucker very soon. She'll be leaving soon. But they didn't want her to leave. They loved her. They wanted her to stick around. Probably because she was smoking shit and being able to protect the community better than cops would. But this is the legacy of a Stagecoach Mary. Let's get into the rest of this shit.
Mary's like
Jesus Christ,
as well as Nat Love's, was portrayed in the 2021 Netflix film The Harder They Fall by actress Zazie Beetz and Jonathan Majors. The film caught heavy backlash for casting a woman who was the complete physical opposite of the character she was portraying. Mary's physical appearance played a significant role in her approach to life and how she was treated in society. Being a dark-skinned woman of such stature, attitude, and fortitude was the essence of who Mary was, and the film did her legacy a disservice, in my opinion. Rosalie Ingram was a Black American sheriff.
So yeah, that was Stagecoach Mary, y'all. You feel me? Like, she really was like, that's why I say she's one of my favorites. She's one of my favorites. You feel me? So let's get into some other sources, huh? Let's get into some other sources. Let's get into these tabs. Let's knock these tabs down. Make sure that you are subscribing to the Patreon. As you can see, it's good stuff over there. It's good stuff. That's one video that I dropped maybe earlier this year or last year, something like that. There's plenty more good stuff over on the Patreon. Make sure you're subscribing. All right? Let's get up out of here. All right. So what else we got? Let's go to the Smithsonian. Sometimes I rock with the mainstream. Let's see if the Smithsonian is going to cover some things that I didn't cover already in my own videos. Let's see. Because I just seen the link. I was like, the Smithsonian is pretty safe and all of that. So let's see what the Smithsonian. I didn't even get into the article here yet. So let's see what they got to say. If it's going to be the same stuff we've been learning, then it's fine. Nat Love autobiography. Let's see. Recount stories of his life on the frontier, so cliche, they read like scenes from a John Wayne film. He describes Dodge City, Kansas, a town smattered with the romanticized institutions of the frontier. Quote, a great many saloons, dance halls, and gambling houses, and very little of anything else. He moved massive herds of cattle from one grazing area to another, drank with Billy the Kid, and participated in shootouts with native peoples defending their land on the trail. See, I don't like that. I don't like the way they describe that. But it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. Let's see. And when not, as he put it, engaged with fighting in fighting Indians, he amused himself with activities like daredevil riding, shooting, roping, and such sports. So that's Nat Love. Did we talk about anything else in the article? The cowboy lifestyle came into its own in Texas, which had been cattle country since it was colonized by Spain in the 1500s. But cattle farming did not become the bountiful economic and cultural phenomenon recognized today until the late 1800s, when millions of cattle grazed in Texas. White Americans seeking cheap land and sometimes evading debt in the United States began moving to the Spanish and later Mexican territory of Texas during the first half of the 19th century. Though the Mexican government opposed slavery, Americans brought slaves with them as they settled the frontier and established cotton farms and cattle ranches. By 1825, slaves accounted for nearly 25% of the Texas settler population. By 1860, 50 years after it became part of the Union, the number had risen to over 30%. The year's census reported 182,566 slaves living in Texas. As an increasingly significant new slave state, Texas joined the Confederacy in 1861. Though the Civil War hardly reached Texas soil, many white Texans took up arms to fight alongside their brethren in the East. Okay. Give me some more. Is that it? Right after the Civil War, being a cowboy was one of the few jobs open to men of color who wanted to not serve as elevator operators or delivery boys or other similar occupations, says William Loren Katz, a scholar of African American history and the author of 40 books on the topic, including The Black West. Freed blacks skilled in herding cattle found themselves in even greater demand when ranchers began selling their livestock in northern states, where beef was nearly 10 times more valuable than it was in cattle in inundated Texas. The lack of significant railroads in the state meant that enormous herds of cattle needed to be physically moved to shipping points in Kansas, Colorado, and Missouri. Rounding up herds on horseback, cowboys traversed unforgiving trails fraught with harsh environmental conditions and attacks from Native Americans defending their lands. They keep saying that. And I get what they're getting at, but it's like, yo, I know that in the mainstream zeitgeist of American history that we have viewed Native Americans as these like peace-loving, just land, nature, type of tribes and shit like that. But these motherfuckers was wrecking shit. They were wrecking shit. There's like very few peaceful tribes. Like most tribes were engaging in warfare all of the time. Like the Comanche, some of the most violent Native Americans that you would ever read about. As a matter of fact, Shane Gillis has an entire story that he tells, because he's a big history buff too. And he talks about how like fucking ruthless the Comanche were. They were not fucking around. And this is before, there was a huge swath of crackers coming into the country. This is them fighting other tribes, taking over the lands of other tribes. So I guess the way they're framing it is objective. They were defending their lands, but at the end of the day, they could have been trying to take over lands too. So I get the notion and stuff like that, settlers, newcomers, all of this other shit, but that didn't mean shit to most tribes. Most tribes, they were newcomers to new lands at all times, and they were going to take them shits over. It was all about guns and butter. It was all about guns and money at that point. You feel me? Cliff says, The Harder They Fall was a good film, but yeah, we definitely need a better movie of her. Another prime example of a black superhero energy. Shout out to Black Mary. That's a fact. That's a fact. See what else the article has to say. African American cowboys faced discrimination in the towns they passed through. They were barred from eating at certain restaurants or staying in certain hotels, for example. But within their crews, they found respect and a level of equality unknown to other African Americans of the era. Okay, I'm not. See, the thing is, I ain't gonna lie. As y'all can see, I have like a little bit of anti-mainstream bias. This is the Smithsonian. It really doesn't get more mainstream than the Smithsonian and stuff like that. And there's going to be an objective respect that I have for the museums and the historians and stuff like that, because we all share the passion of history. Okay. However, you know how I feel about framing the ancestors and narratives around the ancestors. And while I will never deny the discrimination, and I will always talk about, how there was integration all the way, going back to the 18th century. Like there were black and white Americans or black and white colonists, however you want to call it, that were working together and doing all these different things. I tell you guys about Cowaliga, Alabama all of the time as it pertains to, a black town having white residents in it. So I understand the nature and the nuance of it. So when the statement is they found respect and a level of equality unknown to other African Americans of the era, that's false. That's just plainly false. They are lying to you. Okay? There were levels of respect and equality all throughout the United States, all throughout the 19th century. It's just that when you are having these broad stroke generalizations as if all white people were cool or all white people were racist or all black people were going and most of them weren't, you feel me? That's when I step in and I have a problem with it. So that's where I'm like, it's kind of cringy to read these mainstream sources like the Smithsonian saying that this level of respect and equality was unknown to other black Americans of the era. That's not true. Especially during the late 19th century. The late 19th century is the end of slavery. The late 19th century, you see the proliferation of black towns. The late 19th century, you see the proliferation of white Americans literally shopping and doing business with black Americans. You see, former slave owners literally begging their former slaves to come back to literally take care of them again just for pay. So when it comes down to this stuff, again, I gotta have a little bit of a sensitivity to these types of things. Let's see. Love recalled the camaraderie of cowboys with admiration. Quote, a braver, truer set of men never lived than these wild sons of the plains whose home was in the saddle and their couch, Mother Earth, with the sky for a covering, he wrote. So again, this is something that the ancestors talk about a lot. And just like Move Forward says in the chat, it was a lot of volunteer association. You have to understand the freedom of association was, before we even get to the freedom of association, you have to understand that when it came down to the Constitution, that's what black American, and it's not even to be on some race shit, but black Americans are some of the most truest Americans and the most patriotic Americans you'll ever meet, especially ancestral black Americans. They want what was promised to America. They want what was written down in the Constitution. They didn't give a fuck about a motherfucker's feelings. I want to have the freedom of association. That's it. I want to be able to congregate with the people that I choose to congregate with and vice versa. That's what they wanted. They didn't want these, sweeping legislations and shit like that to try to make them, a basket case or a handout case. It's like, don't infringe on my God-given rights. Don't infringe on natural law. Don't infringe on my human rights. You do that and we good. Period. It wasn't this racial insecurity, this inferiority complex that a lot of contemporary black Americans have. And that's why I find it so ironic, is because a lot of that inferiority complex that they walk around with in 2025, they base it on history. They base it upon the treatment of the ancestors. They base it upon how racist the past was. But then you'll have black men who were former slaves give props to their white counterparts. You'll have black men and women, okay, like Stagecoach Mary, who wasn't going. There's not a single quote from Stagecoach Mary where she was like, I cowered in fear of the white man. Not one. As a matter of fact, any one of the motherfuckers ever thought that they could actually step to me, I would gladly accept the challenge and then beat the shit out of them or shoot the shit out of them. You see what I'm saying? So we go to the primary source. We're reading from the ancestors directly. We read the quote from Fannie Lou Hamer herself. Okay, and that wasn't the only quote she said. She talked about racism, discrimination, and other things that was going on psychologically, physically, mentally, and all these other things. However, when it came down to facing discrimination, facing racism, facing oppression, it wasn't of a cowardice nature. It never was. But again, when you're looking through the mainstream lens, there's going to be those types of things. So I'm glad that they, at the very least, are citing primary sources so I can come away with it with my own interpretation. But they're going to add their sauces. As you can see, they're going to add their little sauces, their ingredients and shit like that. But we go straight to the primary source. We go straight to the ancestors, right? So let's see. They were always ready to share their blanket and their last ration with a less fortunate fellow companion, and always assisted each other in the many trying situations that were continually coming up in a cowboy's life. You feel me? Straight up and down. This is what a black man had to say about his white counterparts that he chose and had the volunteer association like Move Forward said. Anime manga fan says it was fuck around and find out Friday for Mary 24/7. That's a fact. Shout out to my brother HJ. Okay. One of the few representations of black cowboys in mainstream entertainment is the fictional Josh Dietz in Texas novelist Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove, a 1989 television miniseries based upon the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel starred actor Danny Glover as Dietz, an ex-slave turned cowboy who serves as a scout on a Texas to Montana cattle drive. Dietz was inspired by real-life Bose Ickard. We talked about him, a Black American cowboy who worked on the Charles Goodnight and Oliver Loving cattle drive or Goodnight Loving trail in the late 19th century. I roped, threw, tied, bridled, saddled, and mounted my Mustang in exactly 9 minutes from the crack of the gun. Cooking shit. The real life Goodnight's fondness of Ickard is clear in the epitaph he penned for the cowboy. Quote, served with me 4 years on the Goodnight Loving Trail, never shirked a duty or disobeyed an order, rode with me in many stampedes, participated in 3 engagements with Comanches. Look, the Comanches, because I'm telling you, the Comanches was smoking shit. We might have to do an episode on them. But anyway, splendid behavior. So again, when you start talking about, it was unknown to other black Americans and shit like that, listen, cowboys weren't the only people, okay? Black cowboys weren't the only people that had, fellowship with white Americans. All right? Quote, the West was a vast open space and a dangerous place to be, says Katz. Cowboys had to depend on one another. They couldn't stop in the middle of some crisis like a stampede or an attack by rustlers and sort out who's black and who's white. Black people operated on a level of equality with the white boys, he said. Trying to tell you, these Native Americans were not peaceful, Jack. They were not peaceful. And if it's getting a little laggy, it's because of these damn ads and shit, man. These mainstream websites. What else we got? The cattle drives ended by the turn of the century. Railroads became a more prominent mode of transportation in the West. Barbed wire was invented and Native Americans were relegated to reservations, all of which decreased the need for cowboys on ranches. This left many cowboys, particularly black Americans, who could not easily purchase land in a time of rough transition. Okay. So, and we talked about Bill Pickett. So yeah, that's the Smithsonian. Okay. I think we've covered it. So this right here that's loading up is a book. It's a secondary source, not a primary, but we do have a primary source here. We do have The Life and Adventure of Nat Love. It's available online. If you guys are savvy, you can just look at this. It's a very small link. You can download it to your phone right now. I know I have. But so we do have a primary source, but this is a secondary source. And I said this on the timeline earlier today. You know that I emphasize the importance of primary sources all of the time. Go to the primary source. Go to the sources that are going to be able to tell you what was actually happening during that time. Okay? Extremely important. Always, first and foremost, seek out primary sources. That is always going to be the first thing that you go for. However, secondary sources are as well a good tool for research. The thing is, when it comes to, why is it taking so long? The thing is, when it comes to secondary sources, you have to make sure that the secondary source has a bibliography. Usually, when you're dealing with a published work that's a secondary source, they're going to have little exponents or notations on at the end of the sentences, end of the paragraphs or whatever, and at the bottom of the page, they'll tell you the source on why, where that came from. So you want to be able to look at secondary sources like that. Now, in the pursuit of the primary source, and you're reading it from a secondary source, you may have to go a few layers deep. So, Hotep History is telling you about, let's just say Hotep History was a book, right? Instead of an amazing live show. And I'm writing about, or I'm citing the Negro on the American frontier, which is also a secondary source. And then the Negro on the American Frontier cites an additional secondary source. So you have to keep going further and further back. It's one of my favorite things to do as a researcher. It's like how you create rabbit holes. It's how you go down rabbit holes. So the first secondary source or tertiary source, then you go to the secondary source, then the secondary source sources or cites another secondary source, and you keep going down until you find the original document that they were referring to 3 books ahead. And as a researcher, that's going to be one of the best things that you can do. So some free game for you guys as it pertains to making sure that you know how to do your proper research. I make it a point to not really talk about things that I haven't been able to confirm on the primary source level. But I will share the book. I will share the secondary source book so you guys to be able to check it out. I have absolutely no idea why this is not loading, chat, and it's pissing me off. So we're just gonna have to move on to the next tab. Hopefully this is not true for all the tabs, because it's gonna make me mad. But it's all good. These things happen. These things happen. Okay, this is another secondary source that you can download. Okay, Black Cowboys in the American West, on the range, on the stage, behind the badge. Okay, this is another great resource where you can learn a lot about Black American Cowboys. Okay, so make sure that you guys, I downloaded this one to my computer, but all you got to do is just type in this title, okay, and you will find a link to download it, and you'll be able to read it. It's a great book. Okay, let's go. We can just hit the table of contents. And I'll give you an example of what I mean as far as the primary sources and stuff like that. So I'm looking for the table of contents. Here we go. So part 1, Cowboy on the Range, chapter 1, Before Emancipation, Black Cowboys in the Livestock Industry, and it's by a woman by the name of Deborah M. Lyles. So let's go to page 19. I know it's not going to actually be page 19. Yeah, it's going to be page 6. So let's go down to page 19 and read from that. And I told y'all, when y'all come over here, we're going to be reading. So even before we get down to that, this is what I'm talking about here. You'll see these different sources, right? 2007. This is what I look for when I'm reading people's sources. I'm looking at the date first. Before I even look at the title, I'm looking at the date. So we see a lot of contemporary, right? 2007. This one starts in, am I reading that correctly? 1528 to 1990. So that's definitely contemporary. 2009, 1969, 1971, right? You're seeing these dates. That's what I look for first. Before I even read the title, I look for the dates. 1972. And so I'll tap into these different publications, these different books and stuff like that. But I'm doing my best to go further and further back. And we might even run an example on this stuff if the connection allows it. But this is what I look for. I look for the bibliographies. I look for the references and stuff like that. And then we're able to go back even further. Okay. Let me see if I can full screen it for you guys, because I know. Yeah, there we go. Full screen for you guys, because I know that it's probably a little small on the screen, but I'm reading it to you, so don't worry. Don't worry. All right. Let's see what we got. Let's get down to the chapter 1. We're going to read a little bit of this. Hopefully it's nothing redundant that we haven't heard already on the stream. But listen, reading is fundamental. Hashtag read more. I'll be telling people to read more. You know, it'd be so funny. Motherfuckers be sitting there, like, when I say some, like, hot take shit, like, yo, the civil rights era was a fucking waste of time. Like, fucking... and how that shit was basically a psyop to have black people specifically to be forever subservient and also anxious and angry at white people in the dominant society or the greater society, and how that made white people and black people's race relations all fucked up, even though it was done in the name of bettering race relations and shit like that. Motherfuckers be like, you need to read a book, you need to fucking understand history and all this other shit. It's like, yo, bro, I read a dozen books every 2 weeks. You motherfuckers don't read at all. You motherfuckers watch YouTube videos that's full of lies. You motherfuckers go to websites that's full of lies. I can read the Smithsonian Magazine website and call bullshit because I read. Any one of those people would have sent me that link. They're gonna read. Send them that link. They're gonna take every word of that article at face value. Don't ever try to challenge it. Don't ever have the even the wherewithal to debunk that shit. And I be finding it so funny because motherfuckers that sit there believe lies and then tell me to read a book. That shit is ironic as fuck to me. But anyway, let's get to the chapter. Before emancipation, Black Cowboys in the livestock industry. Okay. In this chapter, University of Texas historian Deborah M. Lyles argues that enslaved African Americans were used and trained in the livestock industry years before they rode up the trails as freedmen. This use of the antebellum black labor is one that is generally overlooked, but it is important when considering the history of black cowboys. Lyles has authored another significant piece on this topic. Quote, slavery and cattle in the East and West. For the East, let me zoom in. Love that we can zoom in. Look at that, y'all. Now we can all read together, not being selfish with the literature. Okay. So that's the title of it. Okay. So for the East Texas Historical Journal, she is also working on a critical and exhaustive study titled Southern Roots, Western Foundations, the Peculiar Institution in the Livestock Industry on the Northwestern Frontier of Texas, 1846 to 1864, forthcoming from Louisiana State University Press. Had historians paid more attention to the cattle industry of the Mississippi Trans-Appalachia West, nothing would have appeared more logical than black cowboys. Mounted slaves in their roles as cattle hunters displayed considerable skill as horsemen on the Carolina frontier, and generations of their descendants watched over cattle as the culture of their masters spread across the deep South until it crossed the Sabine. As historian John D.W. Goose stated so well, many enslaved African Americans were known for their ability as cowhands. This happened throughout the Old South and Indian Territory, not just in cattle-rich Texas. Some early scholars have discounted the ability of slaves in the livestock industry, but others have acknowledged the significant evidence that confirms the use of their labor. Slave narratives, letters, and journals preserve a history of slave hunting, tending, rounding up, and branding cattle. These sources describe a use of chattel labor distinct from cash crop agriculture and illustrate how those men, women, and children used these valuable skills after emancipation in the era of great cattle drives. Okay, the years of bondage are not traditionally thought of as the foundational era of black cowboys in North America, but they were integral for many black Americans who went up the trails in the years after the Civil War. When writing about overseers, owners, and their herders, Terry Jordan made the interesting observation that they were all, quote, variously called cowpen keepers, cow keepers, hands, rangers, and in the case of African slaves, perhaps even cowboys. Historian Peter, and this is what I was talking about when it comes to the notations here. Historian Peter H. Wood wrote that the unique knowledge slaves brought with them from Africa was a necessary component in the success of the industry in the Carolinas. He also observed that many white settlers requested slaves from the Gambia River area of Africa, for they were valued for their knowledge and ability to handle cattle. Even when their owners were present, quote, the care of their livestock often fell to a black. The slave would build a small cow pen in some remote region, attend the calves, and guard the grazing stock at night. So again, when it comes down to the importance of black Americans in this industry, you have to understand this is going to be something that you're going to see throughout every industry that black American ancestors were in. They're going to relegate all of this backbreaking work to the ancestors first and foremost. Let the nigga do it. That's just the logic. Let the black man, let the black woman, let the black child do it. So all of the grueling backbreaking work that went along with building whatever industry in this country, they're going to relegate it to the ancestors. And I'm proud of that. I know that when you have a bunch of sensitive contemporaries who look at this type of work like, oh my God, how could they do that? And those other stuff, you got to understand, man, knowledge is power. And you only get knowledge from experience. So if they have all of the knowledge, all of the experience, then yeah, they're going to be the ones that actually went out at the end because they actually know what the fuck they're doing and saying. And that's the reason why when it comes down to the work that the ancestors did, it's all of these works that literally allowed this country to be what it is. It's also the reason why I say without Black Americans, this country would be a second and third world country. Maybe second, if not second, definitely third world. So this is what I'm saying. I am not ashamed of hearing of the backbreaking work the ancestors did because I understood how necessary it was for this country to even become what it is. And secondly, so much knowledge and power, wisdom and experience came along with all of this work. But when you only know about the beatings, the whippings, the mistreatment, the oppression, the discrimination and racism, you miss all of this. The word knowledge has been said several times in this chapter, and we're not even off the first page for real. And it's very important to understand that, yo, when it comes to the ancestors, they were extremely intelligent. Fuck reading and writing for a second. But being able to herd cattle, these several 100-pound beasts, 1-2 ton beasts, being able to literally have dominion over these animals. And the fact that it was integral to the entire frontier, to the entire history of Texas, the entire history of Missouri, Colorado, all these different places where these grazing livestock were, your ancestors were right there at the front of it, teaching, guiding, leading, and making it happen. So yeah, cowboy is a pejorative term. Yeah, you know, cow nigga and all this other stuff is a pejorative term. It's a slur that they use to denote superiority over the ancestors. But you don't know what the fuck you're doing. So how superior are you? If you don't know what the fuck you're doing without me, if you can't survive without me, how superior are you? It's no different than your kids thinking they know more than you but can't live without you. So yeah, you may be 16, 17, 18 and you think you got the world figured out, but I do all of the work. I do all of the things that maintains your livelihood, that maintains your lifestyle. You have absolutely no idea how the world works for real. You are privileged in the realm of you not knowing what the fuck is going on, but I do. So while you can sit there and say, I hate you, mom, I hate you, dad, and all that other shit, right? But you don't know how to cook a meal. You don't know how to go grocery shopping. You don't know how to fucking change oil. You don't know how to pay rent. You don't know how to pay mortgage. You don't know how to fucking mow the lawn. You don't know how to do anything that sustains the life that you live right now. You would die without me. That's real power, chat. That's real power. Where these motherfuckers would literally die without you. That's real motherfucking power. So yeah, I may not be the most studious. I may not be the best at reading and writing, but god damn it if I don't know how to herd a bunch of cattle. God damn it if I'm not a master of the soil in agriculture. God damn it if I don't know how to make dresses better than anybody else, how to cook, how to clean, how to maintain the livelihood of human beings better than anybody else on the face of the earth. There is nothing that any of you can tell me to have me ashamed about the ancestors. Never, not once ever. You can show me the most gruesome pictures. You can show me the most racist white men in history. I don't give a fuck because I know that even if it wasn't their livelihood, their parents' livelihood, their grandparents' livelihood was sustained by my ancestors and they couldn't live without them. Literally. Literally. And this is not to disparage the good white folk, and I mean that objectively. But when it comes down to like the objective truth about history, there is never going to be a time in history in America that you will ever have me be ashamed of being a Black American. As a matter of fact, when it comes down to contemporary shit, I'm more ashamed about today than back then. I'm prouder of slaves than my contemporaries in a lot of sense. I'm prouder of the accomplishments, achievements, triumphs, successes of the ancestral Black American slaves than I am some of my contemporaries who have all of the technologies at their fingertips, have all of the advantages of the 21st century and don't use it. If the ancestors were in this time, I swear to God, if the ancestors in there works, it works both ways. You see how I was talking about going back in time and being able to wreck shit as an outlaw because of all of the knowledge that I have. If the ancestors with all of the knowledge that they had from the 17th, 18th, 19th century and came here today and was like, yo, wait, you can press a button on a device and it fucking does X, Y, and Z. You can send messages halfway around the world in a millisecond. You don't have to wait for a mailman to come through. You don't have to wait for a fucking telegraph to come through. You don't have to fucking learn Morse code. All you got to do is type some fucking buttons on a device and you can send a message to somebody around the world. The ancestors would have fucking took this technology and literally created the Jetsons. We would be living in the Jetsons era if the ancestors from the 18th, 19th, and 20th century came through with all of the knowledge that they have and transformed it with the technology that we have. 100%. Let's check the chat. Cliff says, appreciate this Texas info, dudes. Shout out from Houston. You already know, Cliff. You golden in my book, bro. I seen your work. You're making the ancestors proud, bro. I'm gonna take that this time out to shout you out specifically, Cliff. You are making the ancestors proud. A lot of everybody else is too. Don't get me wrong. But if y'all go to Cliff's page, shout your page out in the chat, Cliff. If you go to Cliff's page, you'll see that he's making the ancestors proud right now with his artistry, with his carpentry, with his artisanship. My brother Daniel was in the chat. What's good, bro? Glad you can make it. Maddie's in the chat. What's going on, Maddie? Maddie says the ancestors are key. I'm proud of mine. Absolutely. Maddie is a white woman. Be proud of your ancestors. I'm on my Fred Hampton. Black power to black people, white power to white people, yellow power to yellow people, red power to red people. Like, I've never hung up on hating white people at all. There's good ones, there's bad ones, just like there's good ones and bad ones when it comes to my people. You dig? So shout out to the white ancestors that was out here. So Hotep Memphis says, imagine if the enslaved ancestors had FaceTime. They'd be unstoppable. We have to use our resources to their utmost ability. Oh, Maddie is not even white. I thought she was white, y'all. I apologize. I was wrong. Maddie is Native American. Shout out to the Indians. Shout out to the Native Americans, you dig? But yeah, Memphis is absolutely right. If the ancestors had FaceTime, dog, man. If the ancestors had high-speed internet, if the ancestors had apps on a phone, what? If the ancestors had 21st century technology, I swear to y'all, imagine if Stagecoach Mary had a truck and a fully automatic weapon and a boxing gym. Like, she would have been smoking shit. You hear me? She would have been smoking shit. So yeah, let's get back to this. I think this is pretty much stuff that we already knew. Let's see what else they got in the contents. See if we can find some stuff that we don't know already. It's kind of just repeating what we already know. All right? So let's see what the contents, table of contents have to say. Where is it? Is this it? Yeah, so let's go to part 1 again. Let's see what we got. Matthew Bones Hooks, a pioneer of honor. Anna Carolina Castillo Krim, having a good time. Women Cowhands and Johana July, a black Seminole Baquera. Okay, so let's do. I'm thinking between 2 and 3. So we talked about a lot of guys. So let's get to Johana July. That pops out at me. Page 59. Memphis said Black Mary with an AR-15 and a switch might start our own country. That's a fact. That's a fact, son. She would have started her own country to wait. Man, what? She wasn't playing with nobody. Let's see. Let's learn more about the women's. Let's learn more about the women's. Johana July. There we go. I'm trying to tell you. Yes, Cliff Plans HTX on Instagram. Go to his page. You feel me? Go to his page. Follow him. And if you can, do business with him. Let's go. Johana July and Henrietta Williams Foster, or Auntie Ritty, as she was known, were South Texas black cowhands. Auntie Ritty owned her own home, and cattle thrived in her cattle and horse raising environment. Born in Mexico, Johana July was a member of the Black Seminoles, who ultimately resided in Bracketville, Texas. July's mother ran their ranch on the Rio Grande, and as she grew up, July learned to work cattle, and in particular to ride and tame horses. In this chapter, Cecilia Gutierrez Venable, right? I don't read other languages well. I told y'all that. I'm very American over here. Tells us much about this interesting female cowhand, and in the process, much about the numerous women in the Old West cattle business. Let's get into the ladies. Let's go. The terms vaquero and cowboy conjure images of a tall, lean, muscle, sun-leathered man sporting boots, spurs, chaps, maybe a holster on his hip, a bandana around his neck, and a rope in his gloved hand. His eyes are barely visible beneath his wide-brimmed hat, and the formidable figure exudes rugged masculinity. That's a fact. These images are promulgated by media and flaunted in Western films. Many of these movies contain themes such as the pioneering spirit and the conquest of the frontier. These men are tough and portrayed as conquerors of an adversary or tamers of nature. Women in these same films are relegated to the borders of the story and placed in a subordinate position, always relying on the strong male, although there are hints that they may also be tough. The females in most westerns are slight, well coiffed. Coiffed? I've never seen that word before. Well coiffed and radiate a feminine appearance, thus making the male characters seem more masculine. One example is the Bronze Buckaroo, a 1939 film in the singing cowboy repertoire reminiscent of Gene Autry's movies, except that it hosts an all-black cast. Okay, I gotta watch that. The female role of Betty Jackson, played by Artie Young, sits on her porch, clothed in a crisp flower patterned dress, her hands in her lap, her ankles crossed, and her head bowed. In deep contemplation, Betty is approached by Bob Blake, played by Herb Jeffries. The tall, dark stranger towers over Betty as she discusses her missing brother, Joe Jackson. Bob steps up and lays his hand on her arm and says, quote, "Don't you worry, Miss Betty. We'll find Joe, and we'll find the man who dry gulched your dad," end quote. The next time Betty appears, she is again in a tailored dress that emphasizes her curves and dons a white bow at her collar. She tells Bob that the neighbor offered to buy the ranch and she would sell if her brother was not alive. Okay, I'm not going to hold you. I really don't care about this movie because it's spoiling it for me, and I want to get down to the real people in the history. But I'll finish this paragraph, then we'll move on. Betty's next appearance finds her astride a horse in her western wear, barreling through the desert with Bob. They run into an informative old man, and Bob decides to go into town. But Betty rides towards the ranch alone. Upon Bob's return, he finds that Betty never came home. He and the ranch hands are discussing Betty's absence when suddenly her horse runs into the pen. Bob turns to the cowboys and asks, quote, "Suppose she's been thrown off?" A ranch hand replies, "Oh no, not Miss Betty," and the others nod their agreement. The men decide to follow the horse in the hope that it will lead them to Betty. In the meantime, Betty had been kidnapped and reunited with her brother. She struggles to free herself, and 4 men try to subdue her. Her captors approach her with a brand, trying to force her to sign over the ranch, but she stands her ground. In the end, the kidnappers are arrested. Betty reaches for Bob's arm and clings to him. They mount their horses and ride away with the cowboys singing in the distance. Okay, that's dope. Where are the real people? It's a dope movie. Yeah, I don't know. I love how these chats, Maddie says, I love how these chats are so long. It's like a 3-hour history lesson. They gonna make her mad masculine. Yo, you crazy, yo. But yeah, I appreciate this. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I'm trying to give you guys the best content available. Thank you guys for coming in. More and more people. We've doubled the amount of people in here since I told y'all to repost the stream. So shout out to all of y'all that came through. I want to learn more about these real women. Okay, in Vaquero of Brush Country, J. Frank Dobie described the Cowboys as a proud rider, skilled, observant, alert, resourceful, unyielding, daring, punctilious, and a code peculiar to his occupation and faithful to his trust. Where are the women? Come on now. In the vaquero and ranching in the Southwest United States, 1600 to 1970, Nora Ramirez described this individual as a skilled in horsemanship, roping ability, knowledge, and understanding of cattle. Although several women worked as cowboys and few may be considered vaqueras, their image did not conform with the myth of the brawny male, so their contribution to ranching was dismissed. Okay, can we get to the women? Women as cowboys have also been overlooked by scholars. As early 20th century scholarship portrayed women's agricultural work in the home, henhouse, garden, and field as secondary to that of the male farmer, so too was women's work as cowboy on the range portrayed as secondary. Their experiences were marginalized because their labor often appeared as part of the family wage, thus largely unpaid. Longtime cowboys Carl Hammond and Mike Hanley noted that they did not know of women who worked as cowboys when they were young, but they did say that women often worked alongside their husbands or other family members. Please, where are the... Yo. I'm sorry, y'all. You feel me? I'm sorry, but I'm trying to get to the... Like, where are the women at? Can I get some names? This is what I'll be talking about. Teresa Jordan posited that women also sought a more diminutive role on the ranch, not because of their inability to handle any task, but because they did not want to appear masculine. Thus, their direct contribution on the ranch was often hidden. The lack of recorded evidence of women's ranch work, coupled with their reluctance to be recognized for their work, has posed a conundrum for the study of women as cowboys. See, I remember when these niggas had posted an AI photo of black female cowboys and shit like that. And remember, I said on the stream, like, yo, I don't know of any black female cowboys. Because, like, Stagecoach Mary, she was just a G. For all intents and purposes, Stagecoach Mary, like, was just a male woman. But she was just such a gangster and she wasn't going. Move forward is cooking. Say, here come the feminists. I just want to know, can we get, like, I thought we was going to learn about Johana and we still ain't learned about her. What's going on? We've been talking about men this entire time. You feel me? Okay, here we go. Initial works on women as cowboys were often autobiographies. Hallie Stillwell penned her early escapades in 1991 with I'll Gather My Geese in a 2004 edition covering the latter part of her life. My Goose is Cooked. In the same spirit, Sandra Day O'Connor wrote about her experiences in Lazy Bee, growing up on a cattle ranch in the American Southwest. Other works such as I Married a Cowboy by Connie Reeves discussed the lives of women living with cowboys, but here the women were not the focus. Where are the women? I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? Oh man. So let's see. Listen, y'all. I'm sorry. I love reading, but I like getting to the point as well. And I'm not about to, like, this is like our third page. Like, where are we going to, like, learn of a notable woman? Like, what is going on? We're getting a lot more contemporary here too. 1988 article, Black Women in the West. Glenda Riley noted that that histories of black frontier women were also scarce. So it's like this chapter is just telling me about how unknown black women were. Look what they got in the chapter. Look what they got in the chapter. You know it. Nah, son. I want to actually hear more stories. Okay, hold on. In Texas, Aunt Polly Upton, an African-American woman who lived on the Mellon Creek Ranch, had a small herd of cattle. Here we go. Louise O'Connor in the Tales from the Antone Bottom noted that she also rode well. A couple years later, O'Connor wrote a chapter in Black Cowboys of Texas on Henrietta Williams Foster, or Aunt Riddy, a native of Mississippi who came to Texas because her slave owner lived there. Remembered as a tough, resilient woman who could perform whatever task needed, from field work to domestic chores, sewing wounds, and birthing children, Aunt Riddy also worked cattle, rode bareback, and could, quote, ride a horse better than a man. Okay, here we go. Though several African-American women are remembered for their work as cowboys, their stories are usually gathered from memory and government documents. Few have actually recorded their own stories. Johana July, here we go. Wilkes Lashley, however, is one who has. There we go. As part of Frank D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs, the Work Progress Administration, WPA, interviewed Johana. Now, listen, the Works Progress Administration, okay, that's where you those are the people who interviewed former slaves. So it's a bunch of, interviews and stuff like that. I showed y'all that on one of the previous streams. So, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Finally, Jesus. This is what I'm saying. When it comes to literary work, show, it's a lot of fluff. That's what I love about 19th century literary works, because they getting fucking to it. They will, be illustrative in their wording. They have very flowery language and shit like that. But all of these, it's a lot of yapping in this chapter, bro. I'm not gonna hold you. It's a lot of yap. And I'm trying to get to the meat and potatoes for y'all and for me, for my own entertainment. And now we're finally getting there. Okay. Although the interviewer, Florence Anger Miller, wow, what a name. You're milling anger? Hey, added her opinion to the interview, it remains a powerful story of a black Seminole woman who could and did work as a cowboy and became a skilled vaquera. The WPA reported documented Johana as Johana July, but her family stated that they knew her as Joanne, which was probably a derivative of the Gullah name Juana. Okay, Gullah, an African language spoken by 18th and 19th century slaves in the New World, shout out to my father's side of the family, fostered the names for many of the black Seminoles, although the spellings of these names often changed to accommodate regional preferences. Most of Joanna's friends and family knew her more fondly by her basket name, Jonah. Basket names or nicknames were reminiscent of the African Congolese naming system, which the black Seminoles have embraced and maintained through the generations. The elders under these basket names, when speaking to each other or relating stories or oral traditions about individuals. The usage, now we got to know about the fucking basket names. Okay, the usage of basket names was, however, so common that given names fell into obscurity, which prompted one youth to ask the elders to write their real names so they could pass them on to their children. Okay, let's just skip down to here. Johana was born in Mexico to black Seminole parents in 1860. All of that just to get to here. Jeez. Okay, her father's lineage leads back to important leaders of the black Seminoles in Florida. The Seminoles emerged from the Creeks. Their leader, Chief Cowkeeper, or Amico Ahaya, brought his people to the Alachua Plain near St. Augustine by 1720. We all know about St. Augustine, Florida, home of Fort Mose, the first historical black settlement for black Americans in this country. Okay, other Creeks congregated in the area, and this group formed a confederacy which adopted the name Seminole, derived from the Creek language and meaning, quote, wild or undomesticated. The Seminoles provided a haven for blacks, and their numbers increased. Some blacks joined the tribe after escaping slavery. Some were purchased by Seminoles, and some free blacks moved to the territory in search of lucrative business opportunities. Okay, this population formed several settlements, such as, come on, y'all. Pila, okay, we're going to try this together. Pila Klikaha, Abraham's Town, which according to archaeologists served as a hub for trade among the black, Native American, and European communities. This town also supported several prominent individuals, including men with the name July. Please, can we get back to Johana, bro? I understand that they got to give all of this context. I appreciate historical context, but as somebody who's trying to get to the fucking point, I just want to learn more about her. So excuse me if I skip down. I gave y'all the source. Y'all can read it on your own, but I'm trying to learn about Miss July, if we can, please. Because Seminoles, along with Cherokees, Choctaws, Creeks, and Chickasaws, had brought at least 5,000 and more blacks with them to Florida by 1830, slaveholders desired to land in the area. These conditions escalated tensions with the Seminoles. Consequently, when Andrew Jackson assumed the presidency, scripted the Indian Removal Act in 1830, yada, yada, yada. I don't think these people be like, honestly, this book is great, but as far as this chapter goes, I don't think they have much on Johana. I think they just like talking around her. That's what I'm noticing. Okay? Great information. It's all great historical information, but I want to know about her, and I don't think they have a lot on her because they just keep talking around her. They told me about her parents. They told me about how she was born in Mexico, but they're not telling me anything about the shit that she was actually doing. And I'm just like, okay, shout out to all of this historical context, but where is her story? I tried, chat. I'm trying to incorporate the women's. They're part of our history. They won half of it, but I'm not seeing her name. I'm just seeing more and more just history, and I'm not gonna keep reading just general history about this time or this area. Nah, this is crazy. Okay, so here we go. Johana's family returned to the United States in 1869 when she was almost 10, perhaps fleeing the smallpox outbreak that hit Nacimiento. In anticipation of a final agreement between the United States and the Seminoles, the family settled near Fort Duncan and farmed as well as raised livestock. Johana's father taught her to hunt, fish, and care for livestock. There we go. Work was often shared and gender specific within the Black Seminole community, with women cooking, gardening, and caring for family, and men caring for livestock and hunting. Johana, however, preferred to labor with her father. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay. He must have recognized her ability with the horses, working goats and cattle, because he allowed her to work with him. Her mother must have also noticed her skill with animals and supported her absence from the domestic chores. Those Seminole women often prepared food and farmed. They also had been in the livestock business as early as the 1800s, when Bucker women raised and sold cattle for the Spanish. In the tradition of Okay, no, we're not going to do that. In the tradition of Mexican vaquero, Johana's father handed down his knowledge and skills with livestock to a member of his family, Johana. She enjoyed working with her father, but unfortunately his life was cut short. With the death of her father, Johana assumed the management of the livestock and horses. Okay, here we go. In a WPA interview with Johana, interviewer Florence Anger Miller remarked that Johana was, quote, practically forced into the job of breaking horses after her father died. Other interpretations of Johana's story also assume she was forced into this job. However, this may not have been true. Since the Macagos had lived in Mexico for several years and the men routinely left their homes to aid Mexican officials with marauding tribes, the women cared for the livestock in the men's absence. Johana's father also scouted, which meant he had to be away from the family at times. Consequently, Johana cared for the animals, and her father's death simply assumed the duties of a matter of course. Along with the raising of livestock, another job Johana mastered was breaking horses. There we go. The ability to train horses had a long history of being valued in the New World. Okay? I'm sorry, I lost my place. I was checking something on my phone. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in New Spain, they brought horses and their black slaves to care for them. Because the horses were important for Spanish survival and dominance over the native population, the conquistadors prohibited Indians from carrying and riding their mounts. Okay, more context. Thank you for the context. Can we get back to Johana? It's like one of those movies or TV shows that hit you with all of these fluff scenes and shit like that, and you want to get back to the nitty gritty. Can we please? Okay. Immersed with the vaquero culture, working with her father and later with others who lived near the fort, Johana knew how to ride well. She preferred to ride bareback with only a rope tied around a horse's neck to guide it. Shout out to us who prefer to ride bareback. You dig? Shout out to those of us who prefer to ride bareback. Anyway. Oh, I cracked myself up. For breaking horses, Johana adopted her own style of gentling her stock. Some vaqueros walked their horses in deep sand or mud to tire them out, as noted earlier. Johana used the river. In the WPA interview, she explained her method. Here we go. We're getting a direct quote. Finally. Here we go. I would pull off my clothes. Okay, hold on. I would pull off my clothes and get into the clothes I intended to bathe in, and then I would lead them right into the Rio Grande and keep them in there till they got pretty well worried. When they was wild, I would lead them wild thoughts. I would lead them down to the river and get them out of the water, get them out. Jesus Christ, reading this shit is crazy. Get him out in water where he couldn't stand up, and I would swim up and get him by the mane and then ease up on him. He could pitch it. He couldn't pitch, and when I did let him out of the deep water, he didn't want to pitch. Sometimes they wasn't so wore out, and would take a running spree with me when they got out of the shallow water where they could get their feet on the ground, and they would run clear into the coral. But I was young and I was having a good time. Okay, there we go. So we finally got a quote from her. Johana's routine allowed the horses to tire swimming in the river, preventing them from bucking and running too far. She was also multitasked her work by washing her clothes while she exhausted her horse. So she multitasking. She washing clothes. She washing clothes by breaking horses. Okay. Johana enjoyed her work, although at times it could be dangerous outside of the fort or town without protection. She told the story of going out and cutting hay with her horses. Fatigued from her task, she decided to rest, but noticed that the horses seemed skittish with their ears twitching. Johana sensed something amiss and called to her horse. She jumped on his back and turned, only to see two Indians racing toward her. She dug in her heels and rode hard to the fort. Arriving, Johana jumped off her horse and told the soldiers about being chased by a couple of Indians. The men immediately gave chase and followed the Indians into Mexico. After this incident, Johana, unscathed and undeterred, continued riding in search of rich pastures for her horses, despite the dangers lurking around the next hill. All right. So at 18, she got married to a U.S. Army scout. She was stationed at Fort Clark. She left her mother and family for a small home near Los Moras Creek. Leaving her relatives proved difficult. Had grown up surrounded by her mother. The lack of safety net coupled with her inexperience for domestic chores resulted in her tolerating an abusive husband. Damn. His anger fueled by her inadequate training turned extremely violent. Finally, Johana decided to return home after a rough altercation with her husband. Okay. All right. So she snuck out. Okay. So there's more about her story, which is good. She remained with her extended family and continued raising livestock and breaking horses until she married again. Her second marriage of almost 2 decades to Ned Wilkes around 1881 produced 4 children, John, Ned, Lucinda, and Amanda. Unlike her first husband, Ned respected her talents and allowed her to use her skills while also enhancing her domestic talents with caring and cooking for the children. That's what I'm talking about. Wilkes had passed away by 1900, and Johana and her family were one of the few families remaining in the area. Because many of the Seminoles were ordered to Fort Ringgold in 1897, Johana married for the last time to Charles Lashley by 1910. Okay, I think we can end it there when it comes to her story. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this book is called, where is it? Black Cowboys. Oh, we got to zoom out. Black Cowboys in the American West, on the range, on the stage, and beyond the badge. This is a great book. This is a great book. You guys are going to be reading a lot more when it comes to Hotep history. I'm going to be forcing you all to be reading. Okay? Understand that. We read a lot over here at Hotep History. Okay? So that's that book. Feel free to check it out. Okay? So we did that book. Oh no, we didn't. Finally loaded up. Can we finally read the book? Because I did want to talk about pioneers and frontiersmen and stuff like that, like, you know, black men and women who were like literally settling in America. We're gonna be getting out of here soon, but it's totally fine. I had a good time. Let me know in the chat if y'all having a good time and you enjoyed this and you enjoyed this broadcast. I enjoyed giving it to you. I can tell you that. So this book is called, excuse me, sorry y'all. This book is called The Negro on the American Frontier. This book was written in 1971. And I was telling you guys this is a secondary source, but it does have primary sources in it. Okay? So I did want to just talk about exploration and how black Americans were integral to, you know, pioneering this country, you know, exploring this country, being on the frontier, dealing with everything that you can think of, wild animals, inclement weather, having to make their homes out of nature and all of the things that came with that, sickness and disease and all these different things. Like, it was extremely, you know, important for you guys in the 21st century to know that the ancestors were literally settling this country. Okay? They were literally settling this country. So, take a little water break. Make sure you guys are getting your rest and you're drinking water. It's extremely important. Don't come to my stream without water. Make sure you're drinking water. Don't come to my stream if you're not drinking water. There's some anti-water drinkers out there. I don't like you. I don't like your kind. Let all of the anti-water drinkers know that I don't like their kind. If you're not drinking water, you're not human. I don't understand how you're not drinking copious amounts of waters every day. I drink so much water today that I had to use the bathroom on stream. I had to take a little piss break and let my nigga Spitter play because I drink so much water. Drink water. Everybody right now, go get you some water. Everybody. If you don't have no water, go get some water. Okay? So here we go. Look at the date. Exploration 1529 to 1909. Okay? Talking almost 400 years. Okay? Of black American exploration. Let's get into it. The first frontier on which Negroes, or for that matter, whites, appeared was the frontier of exploration, which preceded sometimes by centuries the various frontiers of settlement and even in some cases the fur trading frontier, although fur traders on occasion preceded official explorers. Okay, facts. Let's zoom in some more so y'all can see. We reading a lot tonight. Okay. I'm sorry, when we talking about, like, you know, 17th, 18th, we talking, this right here is 16th century. 1529, that's the 16th century. Ain't no videos, bro. We'll get into some, you know, visual mediums here and there and all of that, but y'all need to read. So read along. Let's go. Read along at home. Hopefully my reading is up to par. There we go. Although fur traders on occasion, Negroes on this frontier frequently started out as body servants, but then took advantage of their opportunities to become experienced all-around frontiersmen, whether on the plains and mountains of the American West or in the frozen wastes of the Arctic. Two of the best-known Negro companions to the explorers were Estevanico, who I've talked about before, who accompanied Panfilo de Panfilo de Narvaez to Florida in 1528. And this is what I was talking about. Okay, we were here from the beginning, from the very beginning. I know they talk about the 20 some odd Negroes in 1619 and all of the other stuff, but look, 100 years before that, the ancestors were here. In York, who was the servant of Captain William Clark in the Lewis and Clark expedition across North America from 1803 to 1806. Their stories are told in part in the following article, which originally appeared in the July 1932 issue, volume, somebody tell me what is that? So that's 10, 5, and 2. So 10, 5, and 2 is 17, okay? So volume 17, number 3 of the Journal of Negro History. Listen, I promise y'all, I'm going to get all of the first editions of all of the volumes of all of the numbers of the Journal of Negro History. Shout out to Carter G. Woodson. Whole libraries have been written concerning the relations of the white settlers on the continent of North America with the native inhabitants whose country they gradually took over, and with the Africans whom they imported as to assist in the development of the territory thus acquired. But little attention has been paid to the much less important but still significant and perhaps equally interesting question of the relations which developed between these two exploited races, both of which who have been deprived of their land by the white man, though in sharply contrasting fashions. The fact that important contacts did take place between the American Indian and the African Negro has long been known, but only recently has it been brought to the attention of the general public. Then this book was written in 1971. Okay? I'm right here, y'all. That these relations were intimate and extensive is attested by the most certain of proofs, namely the presence in this country of a considerable number of persons classed either as Negro or Indians, some whose ancestors are known to have been of the other race. And this is where you get a whole bunch of black Americans who are like, oh, I'm Indian, I'm actually native, and all this other stuff. Likely, it's true that you may have native, blood in you. It's just that when you start conflating and trying to act like your ancestors or black Americans' ancestors only come from pre-Columbus America, that's when you start talking dumb to me. Like, West Africans 100% were brought here as slaves. And then they went on to propagate with themselves and also natives and stuff like that. So yes, I'm not saying that you're not native, but I'm also going to say I'm not going to say that you're not African either as far as ancestry goes. And I understand about the whole movement about delineating and all of that other shit, but can we please keep a level of common sense here? Okay? But I want to know about frontiersmen. Again, just like with Johana, we're not about to just read a bunch of historical context because we are on our way out of here. I wanted to read about some frontiersmen specifically. What do we got? You know what? There is a man by the name of Beckworth. Is it Jim Beckworth that we can read about directly? Yeah. There we go. There we go. Jim Beckworth. Let's get into that. Okay. Oh, they got a YouTube video about him.
In Virginia Beach, happiness is taking the sunrise
give y'all a
over
little
the
bit of a
water
break
and
from
savoring
reading.
the ocean breeze. It's going all out and making every...
Today we're looking at Jim Beckworth. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bell Ringer. Please don't forget to subscribe and take a look at the questions down in the description. Also, don't forget to check out dailybellringer.com where you'll find more resources that go with many of the Bell Ringer videos. Jim Beckworth was a famed mountain man, trapper, hunter, explorer, businessman, and scout. Beckworth has been hailed as an African-American pioneer who aided in the expansion of America to the west and helped establish trails that thousands of Americans would follow to their manifest destiny. James Beckworth was born into slavery on April 26th in either 1798 or 1800 in Frederick County, Virginia. Again, the birth dates of enslaved people were not typically recorded, so the exact year is not known. His father was a white Virginia planter named Jennings Beckworth, and his mother was an enslaved person owned by Jennings Beckworth. Around the age of 9, Jennings moved to St. Louis, Missouri, bringing Jim along with him and other enslaved people. Jim, at the age of 19, still enslaved by Jennings, Jennings was allowed to apprentice as a blacksmith but did not like the trade. Somewhere around 1824, Jennings emancipated or freed Jim from slavery. Soon after, Jim began working for General William Ashley and the Rocky Mountain Fur Company, venturing into the Rocky Mountains in search of valuable beaver pelts. For the next several years, Beckworth worked throughout the Rockies, joining numerous expeditions and hunting parties and learning the skills of a mountain man. In his travels, Beckworth became very close with members of the Crow Native American nation, learning their language and customs. Sometime around 1828, Beckworth joined the Crow people and lived with them for several years. During this time, he married at least 2 Crow women and would have several children. According to Beckworth, he rose in power among the Crow people and eventually became a chief, although many historians today dispute that claim. In 1837, he returned from living with the Crow and moved back to St. Louis, where he volunteered to fight in the Second Seminole War in Florida and served under future President Zachary Taylor. After returning, Beckworth moved west again and settled in present-day Colorado, working along the Arkansas River and later along the Old Spanish Trail as a trader. When the California Gold Rush began in 1848, Beckworth headed further west to California and established several small stores in mining boomtowns. In 1850, he is credited with discovering Beckworth Pass, which was a route through the Sierra Nevada mountains. Soon after, he began ranching and established a trading post and hotel in the Sierra Valley, which would become the town of Beckworth, California. While operating the hotel, a man named Thomas Bonner stayed in the hotel and Beckworth told him his life story. Bonner wrote down the story and then edited the story, and it was made into a book published in 1856 entitled The Life and Adventures of James P. Beckworth. The historical accuracy of much of the biography is many times called into question, and many stories were exaggerated or changed. Nonetheless, the book made Beckworth into a widely known and acclaimed mountain man and explorer. In 1859, Beckworth left California and moved back to Denver, Colorado, where he was hired by the U.S. government as an Indian agent whose job was to communicate and facilitate adoption of American ways by Native Americans in the area. By 1864, Beckworth was hired by the U.S. Army as a scout for the 3rd Colorado Cavalry. The cavalry embarked on a campaign fighting the Cheyenne and Apache in the region. In November of 1864, the 3rd Colorado Cavalry killed close to 160 members of the Cheyenne in what is known as the Sand Creek Massacre. It is unknown as to the extent to which Beckworth was involved in the massacre, although the Cheyenne were outraged with him and stopped all trade with Beckworth. Now in his 60s, Beckworth returned to trapping and the mountain man life. In 1866, the U.S. Army again hired him as a scout during Red Cloud's War, in which U.S. troops were fighting alongside members of the Crow against Lakota and Northern Cheyenne in present-day Montana. While leading troops to join a Crow band of warriors, Beckworth began to complain of terrible headaches. By the time the troops reached the Crow village, the headaches had become worse. Beckworth soon died somewhere between October 20th and the 30th of 1866 at the Crow village at the age of 66 or 69. He was buried near what is today Fort Smith, Montana. In the century to follow, Jim Beckworth has been honored as a prominent explorer and pioneer that helped shape the western expansion of America. Books, television, movies, and even postage stamps have honored Beckworth as a legend of the American West. So with that, hopefully you learned something, and thanks for watching.
For sure. So I want to look at Beckworth. Shout out to Dude for this video. I want to look at Beckworth, California. Beckworth, California. Yeah, there we go. Beckworth, California. Okay. Formerly Beckwith and Beakwith. Census designated place, Plumas County, California. Community name for James P. Beckworth, an explorer who discovered Beckworth Pass. So there's not much history. Let's go to Beckworth Pass. The lowest mountain pass in Sierra Nevada. Mountain range at an elevation of 5,221 feet. Discovered Beckworth Pass in 1851. He improved the path into Sierra Valley to create the Beckworth Trail. Okay, so he was doing this thing. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for coming through to another episode of Hotep History Live. I was your host, President Hotep Dubes. I appreciate everybody that came through. You guys are absolute gems. Okay? Keep coming through. We will be here again Friday. Okay? Friday at 8 p.m. And you know what? What I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to do for the Patreon subscribers. This is what I'm going to do for the Patreon subscribers. I already have a list of topics that I'm looking at. I've already written them down. And so I'm going to make a post on Patreon. Patreon.com/Hotep History. Patreon.com/Hotep History. I'm going to make a post or a poll, and I'm going to let you guys vote on what we're going to be talking about on Friday. So that means you have to subscribe right now. There's a $5 tier. There's a $15 tier. The $15 tier gets you the Hotep History podcast. That is a Patreon exclusive. It will not be on the $5 tier. That's every Saturday at 12 p.m. on Twitter Spaces. However, as soon as the Spaces is done, I download it and delete it, and the only way that you're going to be able to listen to it after that is on Patreon. So consider subscribing to the Patreon right now. I'm talking about right now. If you are under the sound of my voice right now and you have not subscribed to the Patreon, subscribe to the Patreon. And on the Patreon, I'm going to have a poll. I'm going to choose 5 of these titles that I see right here on my whiteboard. I'm going to choose 5, maybe even 4. And I'm giving you guys the ability to vote on which topic we should be talking about on Friday. So if you want to participate on the poll, make sure you guys are subscribing to the Patreon. And then I will see you guys on Friday. After Friday, on Saturday at 12 p.m. on Twitter, me and my co-host, Mac, a.k.a. Chitlin Poppy, we're going to be talking about black slave owners. Yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into black slave owners on Saturday. So you definitely don't want to miss the upcoming Hotep History content. You're going to love it, especially if you love tonight's content. You're definitely going to dig the content on Friday and dig the content on Saturday. And I also have content dropping on the Patreon tomorrow. So again, we got a lot of stuff coming out daily on the Patreon. We got a lot of content coming out, a lot of historic stuff going down. So make sure you're subscribing to all of the things here: Patreon, Kick, YouTube, Instagram, my Twitter, and on TikTok. And to make sure you're checking out, where's my cursor at? Oh yeah, here we go. Make sure you're going to, here we go, hotephistory.com. I will be writing a blog this week. So you definitely want to tap into that. Make sure you guys are tapping into Hotep History. This is an entire movement. I'm going to be, adding more people to the Hotep History zeitgeist. We're going to be doing a lot of great things, especially, towards the end of the year. Going into 2026, we have a lot of what we're doing. I told you guys we're going to the Library of Congress. That's going to be, you get certain bits and pieces. Okay, certain bits and pieces will be on TikTok and Instagram and all these other stuff, but you're going to get a full breakdown video of the Library of Congress on Patreon. So I'm telling you guys, the Patreon is where all of the good stuff at, all of the exclusive early access. This is where you're going to get a lot of the great and the best central hub for all of the Hotep History content. So make sure you guys are subscribing to the Patreon. Patreon.com/Hotep History. Patreon.com/Hotep History. There are free ways to support the channel, as you can see. Subscribe to all of these different channels. And also, if you really rock with me, make sure that tomorrow, today, and the next day after that, that you are going to do something historic. Be historic, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for tapping in. And you already know, you can't have the future without the present, and you can't have the present without the past. And we don't study history to live in the past, but to order our steps in the present so we can positively affect our future. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, as always, Hotep and Bill.